Chapter 366. It was now the winter season, and the winter in Duanmu continent was even colder. However, the coldness in the outside world was nothing compared to the coldness in this general's heart. Ting Qingshan? It's him! The general's body trembled uncontrollably. It was a physical reaction caused by extreme fear. Clan heads said that this Ting Qingshan is a martial saint of the Golden Dan innate realm. Moreover, even the great elder of the Rising Sun Trading Company was extremely polite to him. Even the Thunder Blade martial saint is no match for him. How did I provoke him? The general was stunned. The entire Duanmu continent only had a population of 200 to 300 million. How many Golden Dan innate experts could there be? According to the ratio, Yangzhou's Qing, Hu Island and Guiyuan sect only had about 10 Golden Dan innate experts. The number of Golden Dan innate experts in Duanmu continent, both in the open and in the dark, could be counted on 2 hands. In the world, there were dozens of powerful clans, and there were even more hidden clans. It was known as the 100 races contending for hegemony. There were only so many Golden Dan innate experts, and most of them were occupied by the Rising Sun Trading Company and the Tianfeng clan. Some of the so-called great clans like Danyang City's Fang clan, Nanshan City's Wang clan, and Murong clan, these clans only had 1 or 2 martial sages. Don't expect to be a Golden Dan innate martial saint. In other words, a Golden Dan innate martial saint had the ability to assassinate the patriarch of a large clan and then leave gracefully. Ting Qingshan, who was known as the strongest person below the martial immortal, the first elder, had to treat him as an equal. After the auction, his information was quickly grasped by all the big families. He was deemed as a person who could not be provoked. Mr. Ting, the general said respectfully. Upon hearing the word Mr. Ting, the 1,000 soldiers and nearly 1,000 clansmen of Tian village were dumbfounded. Ting Qingshan sat on the Scarlet Wind War Ho. Mr. Ting, I didn't know that, Mr. Before Ting Ting could finish his sentence, his son, who had already jumped off the war puppet, poked him lightly and whispered, Father, hurry up and get off the war puppet. The general had been completely petrified before, but now he immediately came to his senses and hurriedly got down from the war puppet. Mr. Ting. The general opened his mouth. I've already said that you have 10 minutes to leave. Otherwise, all the officers will be sold as slaves. Half of it has already passed. Ting Qingshan said indifferently. The general immediately came to his senses. He turned around and roared, Retreat, retreat quickly! Although the other soldiers did not know who the young man riding on the Scarlet Wind Warhouse was, they could guess that he was a supreme powerhouse. Hiya! Hiya! Everyone quickly fled one by one. In an instant, thousands of camel beasts ran, causing the earth to tremble. You and you, the 2 of you stay. Ting Qingshan pointed at the 3 people, the general and the captain of the 100-man squad. Yes. The general was very respectful. How would he dare to be disrespectful? General? In some big clans, 1,000 people would form a battalion. The leader of the battalion would be addressed as deputy general, and his subordinates would also respectfully address him as general. Whether it was the deputy general or the higher-ranked ivory general, those ordinary soldiers would flatter him and address him as general. What was a battalion of officers in front of a Golden Dan innate expert? Even the patriarch of the Wang clan, Wang Meng, had to respectfully address him as Mr. Ting. Even when addressing Fu Dao, they had to address him as Mr. Fu. It could be said that a Golden Dan innate expert completely surpassed the patriarch of an ordinary clan. Of course, a Golden Dan innate expert would have to lower his head in front of the Rising Sun Trading Company, the Tianfeng clan, and other super-powerful forces. Unfortunately, he was only an officer of a battalion. You bastard! Kneel down, kowtow, and apologize to Mr. Ting. The general walked over and kicked the captain of the 100-man squad, causing the captain to tumble on the snowy ground and swallow a mouthful of snow. "Why are you still looking?" The general angrily kicked again. At the same time, the general bowed respectfully towards Ting Qingshan and said, "Mr. Ting, I was careless and allowed this brat to offend you. Mr. Please instruct me how to punish him." Mr. Ting, Mr. Ting. The captain finally came to his senses. He hastily kneeled on the snowy ground and pleaded, "I offended Mr. Please spare my life. Spare my life." At this moment, his heart was filled with fear. He knew very well that in this chaotic world, in order to befriend some extremely powerful experts, the patriarchs would often give their concubines to the other party. It was very common for the patriarchs to give their concubines to the other party. If the patriarchs could give their own women away, what was a captain of a 100-man squad? Begging for mercy? Ting Qingshan looked at the captain and said, "You were very awe-inspiring just now." The captain was so frightened that his body trembled slightly. "You bastard!" The general angrily kicked again. "Let me ask you, why did you collect taxes so many times?" Ting Qingshan frowned and asked. The general said respectfully and helplessly, "Mister, there are 3 big clans around Nanshan City. Each of the 3 big clans has an army that fights everywhere, and all they need is silver. Therefore, everyone collects taxes. This way, the taxes have been collected 3 times. I heard from them that this is the 4th time." Ting Qingshan continued to ask. "The clans control a large area, but there are only so many troops. Each troop collects taxes separately. Sometimes, problems arise and the taxes are repeated." The general hastily bowed and said. Hearing this, Ting Qingshan sighed inwardly. When the world was in chaos, the people at the bottom would always be at a disadvantage. In the land of the 9 prefectures, the 8 supreme sects were high above. Although the world was in chaos, the degree of chaos was not great. However, Duanmu continent was different. Its population was much smaller than that of the land of the 9 prefectures, but hundreds of clans fought for hegemony. One could imagine the lives of the poor people at the bottom of the world. According to what I said before, I don't want any troops to disturb the peace of the villages around the godly Axe Mountain, Ting Qingshan ordered. Yes. The general bowed, but then he raised his head and said nervously, "Mister, we won't come, but there are 2 other clans. I will arrange this." Ting Qingshan waved his hand and said, "You may leave." The general and the captain bowed and kowtowed. Then they quickly mounted their war house. With a sudden lash of the whip, the 2 war house galloped away. The people of Tian village, who were originally in a state of panic and fear, stared at this scene with their mouths agape. Over 1,000 soldiers had actually fled in fear. The high and mighty general and the previously arrogant captain of the 100-man squad were trembling in fear in front of this mysterious youth. "Ah Shou, mount the war house," Ting Qingshan ordered. "Yes, teacher." Ting Shou immediately leaped onto the Scarlet Wind war house. "My lords!" Among the people of Tian village, the old chief's face was full of joy. He said respectfully and nervously, "My lords, I, an old man, didn't know your identities just now. I hope you won't mind. My lords, why don't you come to my village and rest for a while?" The old chief of Tian village understood. According to what they said earlier, even the 3 supreme clans don't dare to offend that spear-wielding youth. If we can form a relationship with him, it would be best if he can take a fancy to one of the ladies in our village. If he becomes the son-in-law of Tian village, who would dare to collect taxes? Who would dare to offend Tian village? At that time, the men of Tian village will also be able to live a good life. In the future, I reckon that the ladies of all the villages will want to marry into Tian village. If such a day really comes, even if I die in the future, I won't have let down the ancestors of Tian village. The old ancestor of Tian village knew how terrifying the chaotic world was. Therefore, he especially wanted to form a good relationship with the spear-wielding youth. "There's no need. Ting Qingshan waved his hand. Ah Shou, thank you. The simple peasant girl shouted hastily. Ting Shou sat on the war house and giggled at the peasant girl. No, 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 no thanks. He stuttered. Let's go, Ting Qingshan ordered. The two war house immediately dashed away and quickly disappeared into the distance. As soon as Ting Qingshan and the others left, the open space in Tian village was in an uproar. Previously, everyone was extremely nervous. Now, the people of Tian village, especially the families of the women who were taken away, were extremely excited. The children hugged their mothers, the young men hugged their wives, and the old men and old women hugged their daughters. Mother! Wife! Excited cries resounded continuously. Many people looked gratefully in the direction where Ting Qingshan and the others left. Ah Xiu, come here! Come here! The old chief of Tian village said hastily. Ah Xiu anxiously grabbed her patched robe and walked over with her head lowered. Chief, this child, Ah Xiu, has caused trouble. Ah Xiu's father was also very nervous. He was afraid that the chief would be angry. It's all right. This child did not cause any trouble. The old chief of Tian village, who had just reprimanded Ah Xiu, was now full of smiles. He patted Ah Xiu's head and said, Ah Xiu, where did those two people come from? How did you know them? Ah Xiu anxiously answered, I met brother Ah Xiu in the forest beside the field after I was working in the fields. Ah Xiu? The old chief of Tian village knew that Ah Xiu was the youth who grabbed the captain of the 100-men squad with lightning speed. What about the young man? The old chief of Tian village asked again. That is Ah Xiu's teacher. Ah Xiu thought for a while and said, Teacher Ah Xiu is very powerful. The forest beside the field? The godly Axe Mountain? The old chief of Tian village roughly knew where Ting Qingshan was. The old chief of Tian village said amiably, Ah Xiu, in the future, go to the forest often and see Ah Xiu. The simple little girl, Ah Xiu, was completely scared out of her wits today. Previously, the girls in the village were captured. Then, thousands of soldiers came over. She was completely scared out of her wits. Now, her mind was in a daze. Previously, the old chief had reprimanded her, but now, he was speaking so amiably. Ah Xiu was even more confused. Do you remember what I said? The old chief of Tian village said hastily, that Ah Xiu is a benefactor to Tian village. Therefore, you must visit him often. Oh. Ah Xiu nodded repeatedly. Ah Xiu only knew one thing. Even if the old chief didn't say it, she would still go, let alone the old chief's arrangement. Gradually, Ah Xiu, who had woken up from her fright, began to understand the old chief's intention. Old chief, could it be that you want to? Ah Xiu bit her lips. The silly and adorable Ah Xiu appeared in her mind. The old chief of Tian village looked in the direction that Ting Qingshan left and sighed inwardly. They are lofty figures after all. When will our Tian village be able to produce such a powerful figure? Chapter 367. The world was in chaos and the people had no way to make a living. This was all caused by the system. Ting Qingshan was alone and could do nothing about this chaotic world. Even the powerful Emperor Yu and the heavenly Emperor of Qin Mountains could unify the world. However, once they passed away, the world would still fall apart. While Ting Qingshan and Ting Shou returned to the Crescent Moon Lake and continued to cultivate. In the faraway eastern flower region in Wuhan City, Kaka, a luxurious carriage, was moving slowly on the street of Wuhan City. When it arrived at a remote place, it stopped in front of a medicine store called 5 Flavors Hall. Nay, the coachman stopped the carriage and jumped off the carriage. He shouted respectfully, Master, we have arrived at the 5 Flavors Hall medicine store. The curtains were lifted and 3 people walked out of the carriage. They were all wearing felt hats, and their faces were wrapped in fur scarves. Only a pair of eyes could be seen. It was not uncommon to dress like this in cold weather. Yes, wait here. The three people walked down from the carriage. A young man wearing a gray fur coat led the way and entered the Five Flavors Hall. In the Five Flavor Hall, there was only a physician in charge and 2 shop assistants, making the place seem deserted. However, the doctor and the 2 shop assistants were actually surrounding the stove, looking very comfortable. "You 3, are you going to see a doctor?" The doctor glanced at them. In the inner hall, one of the old men behind the young man said in a deep voice, "Inner hall." The doctor's eyes flashed and he immediately stood up to welcome them. One of the 2 old men behind the young man took out a gold bar and threw it to the doctor. 10 taels of gold for 3 people to enter. Is that okay? Okay. The doctor took the gold bar with a smile and squeezed it. He nodded and took out 3 pieces of black iron from his bosom. He handed them over and said, "You 3, please enter." If an ordinary person in a medicine store saw this, they would probably be shocked. 10 taels of gold was equivalent to over 1,000 taels of silver. What kind of illness cost so much silver? Moreover, it was only to enter the inner hall. The young man and the 2 old men walked in from the side door and saw 2 indifferent men dressed in black standing in the corridor behind them. One of the men dressed in black immediately stopped them. 3 people. The chubby old man handed over 3 pieces of black iron. The black-clothed man took them and nodded, "Follow me." They walked all the way inside, followed a passage, and directly entered a luxurious mansion. Inside this luxurious mansion, there were men wearing black leather jackets and carrying weapons on their backs everywhere. The young man and the other 2 didn't dare to run around. They followed the lead of the black-robed man and advanced forward. Soon, they arrived at a quiet house. "The 3 of you, please wait a moment. The steward will be here soon." The man in black stood at the door and said, "The 3 of you can rest in this house." "Second uncle, is the Hall of Assassins really as powerful as you say?" The youth was a little hesitant. "Honger, you'll know soon enough," the slightly plump old man said. The tall old man beside him whispered, when you see the Assassin Hall's manager later, he will tell you whether or not the Assassin Hall can handle our clan's matters. However, the Rising Sun Trading Company is behind the Hall of Assassins. If the Rising Sun Trading Company can't do it, then not many other assassin organizations can." Footsteps could be heard. A skinny middle-aged man in a white leather jacket walked in. He had sunken eyes and appeared very cold. "Second steward." The black-robed man bowed respectfully. "Yes." The skinny middle-aged man waved his hand, and the black-robed man immediately left. Only the 3 young men and the steward remained in the house. "The 3 of you don't need to wear masks here, right?" the skinny middle-aged man said with a smile. The 3 young men removed their fur scarf. The skinny middle-aged man smiled as he walked to a seat and sat down. "The 3 of you, please take a seat. May I know what the 3 of you want the Hall of Assassins to help you with?" The second steward looked at the 3 of them carefully. "I want the Hall of Assassins to help me kill someone," the young man said through gritted teeth. The muscles on his face twitched involuntarily. "Dong Zhizi of the Dong clan of the Eastern Flower region." "Dong Zhizi?" The second steward was shocked. "Why, the Hall of Assassins doesn't dare to accept?" the young man sneered. The second steward looked at the young man carefully and revealed a smile. "This should be the 3rd young master of the Jiang clan. Oh, he should be the new patriarch of the Jiang clan. No wonder you want to kill Dong Zhizi." The young man and the other 2 elders were not surprised when the second steward exposed their identities. They all knew the abilities of the Hall of Assassins of the Rising Sun Trading Company. It would be strange if the 3rd young master of the Jiang clan didn't know about them. "My Jiang clan wants nothing more than to eat Dong Zhizi's flesh and drink her blood." The young man's eyes flashed with ferocity. He would never forget those scenes. Those were the most nightmarish days of his life. When he thought of those days, his entire body trembled with anger. The chubby elder beside him immediately patted the young man's shoulder lightly. "To kill Dong Zhizi, You need to be at least a martial saint. The second steward smiled and took out a very thin piece of paper. My Hall of Assassins has the strongest assassins. There are detailed descriptions on this paper. You can choose whoever you want to kill. Of course, the price you have to pay is different. The second steward handed the paper over as he spoke. The young man took it, opened it, and read it with the two elders beside him. As he flipped to the last page, a hint of joy appeared on the young man's face. Peak Martial Saint? The young man revealed a hint of ecstasy. The Hall of Assassins is indeed powerful. The chubby elder beside him praised. It was already good for an ordinary clan to have one martial saint. However, the Hall of Assassins had a few martial saints. This showed the terrifying strength of the Rising Sun Trading Company. The paper only had a description of strength, but not the identity of the assassins. If a peak martial saint attacks, as long as we are careful, we can kill that bitch. The young man couldn't help but reveal a hint of joy on his face. This is, the young man flipped to the last page. Most powerful martial saint? The young man and the two elders beside him were slightly shocked. The tall and skinny elder asked, "Steward, this is a most powerful martial saint? We have never heard of it before." The second steward's face revealed a hint of pride. "Gentlemen, this most powerful martial saint is a rank determined by the Hall of Assassins. In the entire Duanmu continent, no other organization of assassins has such a powerful expert. I can tell you that if this most powerful martial saint attacks, unless he has reached the martial immortal realm." Could it be the Rising Sun martial saint? The young man couldn't help but exclaim. The second steward's face darkened as he scolded, "It is none of your business who the expert behind this is." The two elders hastily pulled the young man. The young man also knew that he had said the wrong thing. "I can tell you that if the most powerful martial saint attacks, there will be no problem." The second steward was very confident. "That bitch!" An ominous glint flashed in the young man's eyes. He clenched his teeth and said, "If you want to hire someone, hire the most powerful one. I want to hire the most powerful martial saint to capture that bitch alive and bring her to our Jiang clan. Tell me, what's the price?" The young man was already prepared to be ruthlessly ripped off. The two elders beside him didn't utter a word. The second steward smiled and shook his head. "What kind of status does this most powerful martial saint have? He doesn't care about money. There is only one way to hire him. If you have one of the 36 stone inscriptions left behind by the godly axe deity, Yu the Great, you must give the stone inscription to this most powerful martial saint for 3 years. After 3 years, he will return it to you. My Hall of Assassins will vouch for it. Of course, it will be troublesome if you want the most powerful martial saint to capture Dong Zhizi alive. You may need to add some gold," the second steward added. In the past few days, there had been a few business deals that wanted to hire the most powerful martial saint. Unfortunately, they didn't have the 36 stone inscriptions. The second steward followed the instructions of the higher-ups and said so as usual. After all, they didn't know who had the 36 stone inscriptions. However, there were 36 stone inscriptions in the world. If they randomly chose a few clans, they might have one. The stone inscriptions of the 36 splitting mountain forms? The young man was shocked and couldn't help but turn to look at the two elders beside him. Currently, the 3 of them held the highest authority in the Jiang clan. Their Jiang clan did have a stone inscription. However, this stone inscription was very precious and they couldn't bear to part with it. "The 3 of you, think about it carefully." The second steward smiled and walked out of the house. At the same time, he closed the door. Only the 3 of them were left in the house. Second uncle, sixth uncle. The young man was slightly hesitant. "This stone inscription will be returned after 3 years. However, I'm worried that the Rising Sun Trading Company will be jealous of this stone inscription. Obviously, they care about their reputation and will definitely return it to us." However, after returning it, they might be ruthless. The other two elders were also worried about this point. It wasn't a big deal to lend the stone inscription for 3 years. Hong-er. The slightly plump elder narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "This 36 splitting mountain form stone inscription has been rumored to be miraculous. However, our Jiang clan has had it for so long, yet no one has been able to practice any exceptional axe art with it. A stone inscription isn't very useful. I think let's do it this way. Let the most powerful martial saint look at it for 3 years. After 3 years, we won't return it. Let the Rising Sun Trading Company auction it for us." This time, our Jiang clan suffered a great loss. If we want to make a comeback, expand our army, and recruit more people, we need money. A stone inscription is useless to us. Why don't we exchange it for some gold? Rumor has it that the previous set of blunt vanadium stone inscriptions were sold for more than 500,000 taels of gold. Logically speaking, this stone inscription shouldn't be any less valuable than that. When these words were spoken, the other two nodded slightly. "Yes, let's do it this way." The young man's gaze turned cold. "That bitch Dong Zhizi tortured my father to death in that dungeon. Even if I hadn't escaped early, I would have been tortured to death by her. That bitch, if we don't capture her, I won't be able to take it lying down. I can't take that lying down." He would never forget the nightmarish days after he was captured. Whether it was his dignity or his body, they were all humiliated like never before. After the young man escaped, he had nightmares for more than a month. Every day, he dreamed of that scene that drove him crazy. "That bitch. I will torture her to death with my own hands. I will make her regret it." The young man immediately stood up and walked towards the vice supervisor. They agreed. If they wanted to invite someone, they would invite the strongest, the most powerful martial saint. In the evening, at the foot of the godly Axe Mountain, by the crescent moon lake, smoke curled up. Ting Qingshan was walking in the forest. With every step, his figure flashed and he darted into the distance. Although he seemed slow, he was strangely fast. No, something is still not right. Ting Qingshan shook his head. At this moment, he was pondering how to create a qing gong that belonged to the Tao of Earth Elemental Tao based on the Tao of Earth Elemental that he had comprehended. Currently, qing gong was Ting Qingshan's weakness. Suddenly, many figures approached from afar. "Mr. Ting!" They shouted from afar. Ting Qingshan cast a glance into the distance. It was the group of people led by the 6th elder of the Rising Sun Trading Company. He couldn't help but smile and say, "6th elder, you came so late at night. Could it be that you have some good news?" Chapter 368. Ting Qingshan had guessed it as well. It would be strange if nothing had happened since he had rushed here in the evening. "Haha, it's good news about the 36 stone inscriptions." The 6th elder walked over with a smile. 36 stone inscriptions? Ting Qingshan's eyes brightened. "Come, 6th elder. Let's talk inside." The stove was burning in the room, making it very warm. Ting Qingshan and the 6th elder sat opposite each other. "6th elder, you mean, the Hall of Assassins under the Rising Sun Trading Company accepted a mission for me to kill people?" Ting Qingshan frowned. The 6th elder hastily explained, "It's a mission the Hall of Assassins accepted. However, it's not to kill people, but to capture them alive. Capture them alive and bring them to the Hall of Assassins. There's no difference between capturing them alive and killing them." Ting Qingshan began to ponder. In his previous life, Ting Qingshan was an assassin of the Red Organization. Ting Qingshan didn't dare to disobey the organization's orders. However, in this life, the days he spent in Tingjia village filled with familial love caused Ting Qingshan's thoughts to change slightly. To those who wanted to kill him and those who tried to stop him. For example, the crazy army on the prairie or the people from Qing Hu Island who wanted to kill him. Ting Qingshan wouldn't show any mercy. However, to people he didn't know, who do you want me to capture? Ting Qingshan asked again. Dong Zhizi. The sixth elder said. Who is Dong Zhizi? Ting Qingshan knew nothing about this person. The sixth elder chuckled and said, Mr. Ting, you really don't care about the outside world and only focus on cultivation. This Dong Zhizi is also an important figure in the Eastern Flower region. How could a woman become the current head of the Dong clan in Shuangshan City? Furthermore, female family heads are relatively rare in this world. Ting Qingshan's heart stirred. Female clan head? Ting Qingshan admired the fact that a woman could become the clan head. Usually, this kind of person would have to overcome many difficulties. That's right. Moreover, she's an inborn martial saint. The sixth elder shook his head and said, Of course. In front of Mr. Ting, she is just a child who has just learned how to walk. Why do you want me to capture her? Ting Qingshan asked. Do you know who issued the mission? Sixth elder explained, It's the Jiang family. The Jiang clan was also a super clan in the Donghua domain. However, during the battle with the Dong clan, they fell into a trap, and many members of the Jiang clan's direct line of descent were captured. Even the head of the Jiang family was captured. Later on, the Jiang clan also sent out experts to rescue the Jiang clan's third young master. Everyone else is dead. And in this battle, the Jiang family has also lost its foundation. The Jiang clan hates the Dong clan to the bone. Especially that third young master of the Jiang family. Rumor has it that he has been tortured in prison. Sixth elder laughed. That's why they disregarded everything and asked Mr. to capture Dong Zhizi alive and hand her over to their master to be dealt with. Ting Qingshan came to a sudden realization and nodded. It was normal for the two clans to scheme in the struggle for supremacy. Ting Qingshan didn't think that either side was right or wrong. What is Dong Zhizi's character like? Ting Qingshan asked. This. I don't really know. Sixth elder shook his head. Oh right, there's something interesting about this Dong Zhizi. She married 9 men. She married. Ting Qingshan frowned in surprise. Haha. Sixth elder laughed. Yes, she married them. In this world, it's common for men to have multiple wives and 4 concubines. However, this Dong Zhizi is very domineering after becoming the patriarch. She actually married 9 men and claimed that they were her male concubines. Ting Qingshan was stunned. This made Ting Qingshan think of the first female emperor in his hometown in his previous life. TSK. Interesting. Ting Qingshan nodded. Mr. Ting, do you accept this mission or not? Sixth elder inquired. A smile appeared on Ting Qingshan's face as he replied, I am a little curious about this Dong Zhizi. However, whether I accept this mission or not, I can't make a decision for now. How about this? Tell me where Dong Zhizi lives, and I will make a trip there. I will make a decision when I get there. All right. Sixth elder chuckled and said, Mr. Ting, you can make your own decision. If Mr. Ting captures Dong Zhizi, it's best if you hand her over to the Rising Sun restaurant or the 5 Flavor Hall medicine store in Wuhan City of the Eastern Flower region. All right. Ting Qingshan smiled and nodded. Since that's the case, I will take my leave first. Sixth elder stood up with a smile. Seeing that Ting Qingshan was about to stand up, Sixth elder hastily smiled and said, Mr. Ting, there's no need to send me off. Lady June, everyone is looking over here. Li Jun, who had already prepared dinner, couldn't help but smile. After Sixth elder left, Ting Qingshan and the others sat around the table and began to eat. Big brother Ting, I heard what you said to Sixth elder just now. Are you going to accept this mission? Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan. To Ting Qingshan, the 36 inscriptions were indeed very important. Every inscription contained the imprint left behind by Emperor Yu, which could save Ting Qingshan a lot of time and allow him to return to the continent of the 9 prefectures earlier. Little June, do you think I should accept? Ting Qingshan stared at Li Jun. Li Jun hesitated for a moment before saying, "From what I heard just now, I feel that this Dongzhi should be a very capable woman. Actually, I quite admire this kind of person. However, in my opinion, if she is a good person and treats her people well, then forget about it." Ting Qingshan pondered and didn't say anything. "I'm just saying. Big brother Ting, you have to make the decision yourself," Li Jun hastily added. Obviously, she was worried that she would affect Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan couldn't help but raise his head and smile when he saw Li Jun's slightly perturbed expression. Coachman Old Wang and Little Ping didn't dare to interrupt at the dinner table. As for Ting Shou, he was silly and simple-minded. He only knew that he shouldn't kill those who were good to him, but he should kill those who weren't good to him. Late at night, in the cave of the Godly Axe Mountain, iron leaf fruits emitting a green glow were placed in the cave of the mountain. Ting Qingshan was sitting cross-legged in meditation. In front of him were 36 inscriptions. It was already late at night. Li Jun, Little Ping, and the others had all fallen asleep. "You big guy, why did you stick your head in here?" Ting Qingshan looked at the passageway at the side. The six-legged blade-like Qi had already stretched its head towards Ting Qingshan and the others. Part of its body was in the passageway, while the other part was in its own nest. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Qi's two protruding golden eyes stared at Ting Qingshan with its black pupils. Ting Qingshan shook his head and snickered. Ever since he came here, the spiritual Qi of the heavens and the earth was no longer chaotic. Instead, it was very calm. The six-legged blade-like Qi was not a fool. It naturally wanted to get closer to the center of the spiritual Qi of the heavens and the earth. Therefore, it tried its best to get closer to the center of the spiritual Qi of the heavens and the earth without offending Ting Qingshan. "This six-legged blade-like Qi doesn't think highly of me." Ting Qingshan sensed the meaning in the six-legged blade-like Qi's eyes. "That's right. If I fight it head-on, I won't be able to defeat it. In the cave of the mountain, the space is narrow. I can still fight it. If I go outside, I will be at a disadvantage." Ting Qingshan really wanted to subdue the six-legged blade-like Qi. When he returned to the land of the 9 prefectures in the future, Ting Qingshan could imagine that there would be many battles and killings in the future. With the six-legged blade-like Qi as a helper, the results would be very good. Unfortunately, an old demonic beast that was at least 1,000 years old, and its strength was not weaker than his. Subduing it was just a dream. Demonic beasts were all very arrogant. On the morning of the next day, Ting Qingshan and the others had already left the underground cave and arrived at the Crescent Moon Lake. Because Ting Qingshan was about to depart for the Eastern Flower region, Li Jun and the others were sending Ting Qingshan off. Blue Luan will stay here to prevent the six-legged blade-like Qi from having any ideas. Ting Qingshan smiled as he looked at Li Jun, Little Ping, Ting Shou, and Old Wang. "It's only a few thousand li from here to Shuangshan City in the Eastern Flower region. The whole Gale Eagle is also an innate demonic beast. It can travel 10,000 li in a day. Even if it's slightly slower, I will probably be back by tomorrow." "Big brother Ting, be careful on the road," Li Jun said softly. Li Jun's request caused Ting Qingshan to recall a scene from his previous life in a daze. In the past, when Ting Qingshan was on a mission in the assassin organization, Kitten would come up and give him a kiss and a reminder. When Kitten was on a mission, Ting Qingshan would also send Kitten off in the same way. A wife sending off her husband and a husband sending off his wife. That scene had already been deeply engraved in the depths of his memory. "Big brother Ting?" Li Jun shouted. "Yes, wait for me to come back." Ting Qingshan looked at the whole Gale Eagle and patted its back lightly. The whole Gale Eagle immediately spread its wings excitedly and flapped a few times, stirring up a layer of snow. It then soared into the sky. When the whole Gale Eagle reached a height of 20 zhang, which was higher than the canopy of many trees, Ting Qingshan held the reincarnation spear in his hand and leaped up abruptly, landing on the back of the whole gale eagle. Ting Qingshan pointed to the northeast. Screech, a cheerful cry resounded through the heavens and the earth. The whole gale eagle immediately flew toward the northeast at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it disappeared into the distant horizon. Shuangshan City of the Eastern Flower Region was one of the 36 major cities in the world. Ting Qingshan had a detailed map of Duanmu continent. Relying on various reference points and the whole gale eagle's astonishing speed, he arrived at Shuangshan City, which was several thousand li away, by noon. Letting the whole gale eagle fly freely in the surroundings, Ting Qingshan entered Shuangshan City alone. In the backyard of the Rising Sun restaurant in Shuangshan City. It had to be said that the Rising Sun restaurant was much more famous than the Five Flavor Hall. Ting Qingshan found the Rising Sun restaurant very easily. "Greetings, revered Ting." The manager of the restaurant bowed respectfully. Ting Qingshan smiled and nodded. The manager had a fat head and big ears. He smiled and said, "I just received news that revered Ting would come to Shuangshan City. I didn't expect revered Ting to arrive so soon. May I know what orders Lord revered Ting has?" "I want a detailed map of Shuangshan City that shows the location of the Dong clan," Ting Qingshan ordered. "Yes." The manager hastily arranged for the people to follow. "Give it to me when you find it. I'll have lunch in your restaurant." As Ting Qingshan spoke, he walked toward the restaurant. The manager hastily accompanied him and said, "Lord revered Ting, the third floor is full. Please wait for a moment. I will ask them to come down." "No need. Just find a random seat on the first floor." At this moment, Ting Qingshan was still pondering should he capture Dong Zhizi or not. Chapter 369. On the first floor of the Rising Sun restaurant, Ting Qingshan found a seat by the window. "Just make something to eat. 3 dishes, a soup, and a pot of wine," Ting Qingshan instructed. The manager immediately arranged for the chef to make some exquisite dishes. Clang! Clang! Sounds that sounded like the beating of gongs and drums rang out. The sounds came from the street outside the restaurant. Ting Qingshan turned his head and saw that on the street, which was wide enough for 10 hunchbacked beasts to walk side by side, all the pedestrians hurriedly moved to the sides. "Make way! Make way! Make way!" Shouts of reprimand rang out from afar. The dense sounds of hooves caused the ground to tremble. Following which, a total of 6 knights riding on hunchbacked beasts advanced side by side. Behind them, there were also knights who raised their banners high up in the air. The banners unfurled in the wind had a large Dong character on them. Over 200 knights advanced. After more than 200 cavalrymen advanced, there was a luxurious carriage with 6 wheels and 4 war-house pulling it. The carriage was made of dark red wood with golden edges. It looked very luxurious. "This is the Dong clan's fleet?" Ting Qingshan raised his wine cup and praised inwardly. "How extravagant! Tsk, this is Queen Dong's hunting battalion. It is said that the carriage is worth hundreds of thousands of taels of silver. What do you know? The carriage is made of the dark incense wood, which can only be found in the blazing flame territory. There is so much dark incense wood. Even if you don't consider the craftsmanship, it has to be worth over 10,000 taels of gold, which is equivalent to over 1,000,000 taels of silver. The 4 warhouse in front are all snow heavenly warhouse, which means only the white fur warhouse. One of them is worth at least 10,000 taels of silver." "Who is in the carriage? Queen Dong?" "Not necessarily. Maybe it is the little queen." There was a lot of discussion in the restaurant. Everyone exclaimed in surprise, and this allowed Ting Qingshan to learn a lot from them. Ostentatious and extravagant. This was Ting Qingshan's first impression of Dong Zhizi. "I'm really King unlucky." A skinny old man with dust all over his body and a pair of pants that looked like they were torn to the knees, cursed in a low voice, and walked into the Rising Sun restaurant. The restaurant's female attendant quickly went forward and said with a smile, "Dear customer, the first, second, and third floors of our restaurant are all full. Dear customer, why don't you wait for a while? This person is so unlucky. He doesn't even have a seat to eat." The skinny old man was very unhappy and dissatisfied. "Brother, if you don't mind, come and sit here," Ting Qingshan, who was sitting next to the window, said with a smile. The lean old man turned around in surprise, and Ting Qingshan also smiled and raised his cup. "Haha, looks like my luck today isn't too bad." The lean old man smiled as he walked towards Ting Qingshan and sat opposite to Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan ordered, "Add a pair of chopsticks and a cup." "Yes." The female attendant had received instructions from the manager and knew that Ting Qingshan had a special status. Hence, she immediately prepared another set of cutlery. "Brother, my surname is Wang. Thank you in advance." After the lean old man sat down, he took the chopsticks from the female attendant and ate 2 mouthfuls of the dishes. Then, he poured himself a cup of wine and drank it. "Ah, the dishes and wine are really good. I've been here many times, but I've never tasted such good wine." Ting Qingshan smiled and said, "Brother Wang, the carriages of the Dong clan should have passed by just now, right?" Ting Qingshan was very clear that once Dong Zhizi was captured alive and handed over to the Jiang clan, her fate would be very tragic. Therefore, Ting Qingshan had to find out what kind of person Dong Zhizi was. "That's the Dong clan's hunting team." The lean old man touched his nose and cursed in a low voice, "This group of arrogant bastards. Just now, I walked to the side of the street and was even bumped by a hunchbacked beast. My old bones almost fell off. How unlucky." The lean old man looked at Ting Qingshan in surprise and asked, "Brother, are you an outsider?" "Yes, an outsider who just arrived in Shuangshan City." Ting Qingshan nodded. "That's why. Who among us locals doesn't know about the Dong clan's queen?" "TSK." The lean old man sighed. Then, he realized something and hastily said, "This Queen Dong is the patriarch of the Dong clan." "Is the patriarch of the Dong clan in the carriage?" Ting Qingshan asked. "Who knows?" The lean old man shook his head and said, "It's Queen Dong's daughter. She has the same temperament as her mother. Queen Dong likes to hunt, and so does her daughter. It could be Queen Dong or her daughter in the carriage. Forget it, let's not talk about Queen Dong. If we talk too much, we might get into trouble. Queen Dong is very powerful." The lean old man lowered his voice. "Brother, this is my first time in Shuangshan City. Tell me, is the patriarch of the Dong clan really so scary that you all call her Queen Dong?" Ting Qingshan asked. TSK, little brother." The lean old man put down his wine cup, craned his neck, and said in a low voice, "This Queen Dong is not an ordinary person. Her methods are ruthless. Whether it's her subordinates or the people in her area, everyone knows how powerful she is. The flowers and trees in her backyard are all made of human flesh fertilizer." "Human flesh fertilizer?" Ting Qingshan was surprised. "Of course." The lean old man hastily said, "This Queen Dong likes to torture people. I heard that even one of her generals accidentally offended her and was whipped to death by her. He was lucky. The unlucky ones were all sent to Queen Dong's secret prison." "Secret prison?" Ting Qingshan was surprised. "All the big clans have their own prisons. Is Queen Dong's secret prison really that scary?" "That's true." The lean old man said in a low voice, "Queen Dong's methods of torture are very cruel. There are blood camel riding and armor wearing from her mansion." "What's blood camel riding?" Ting Qingshan hastily asked. The lean old man laughed proudly and said in a low voice, "This blood camel riding is not for you to ride a red-haired camel. It's for the prisoner to take off his pants and tie his hands. Then, the prisoner has to sit on a wedge made of iron with his legs apart. Do you know about wooden wedges?" Ting Qingshan nodded. The wooden wedges were triangular in cross-section. That iron wedge. Sit on it with your legs apart. That's painful. Blood flowed and dyed the iron wedge red. That's why it's called blood camel riding. There are also tortures such as armor wearing and iron comb. Forget it. Let's not talk about those disgusting things while we eat. The lean old man shook his head. In short, this Queen Dong is really ruthless. In the Dong mansion, all the maids and servants tremble in fear in front of her. It's said that when she creates some kind of torture, she can't wait to find the prisoner. Sometimes, she catches some servants she doesn't like and tries it out. Ting Qingshan frowned as he listened. Brother, continue eating. I'm going out for a while. Ting Qingshan carried the reincarnation spear's holster on his back and walked out. Little brother, don't play with me. Don't tell me you didn't pay. The old man was so scared that he stood up. The moment he ate the dishes, he knew that they must be very expensive. Dear customer, don't worry. That lord has already paid. The maid ran over. The old man's face turned red when he heard this. With the holster on his back, Ting Qingshan walked alone on the street. No wonder the sixth elder said that the Jiang clan members were captured and tortured. They hate this Dongzhi to the core. Ting Qingshan sighed. No wonder they asked me to help. No matter what, such a vicious person deserves to die. Ting Qingshan had already made up his mind. Capture Dongzhi alive. Relying on the map of the city given by the manager, Ting Qingshan soon arrived at the Dong mansion amidst the bustling crowd. The Dong mansion was a luxurious mansion that occupied a vast area. Just the main gate alone was over 10 zhang wide. There were dozens of soldiers standing guard at the main gate. Halt! This is the Dong mansion. Idlers, stop. Immediately, a soldier wielding a long spear shouted at the strolling Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan grinned and continued walking. The expressions of the soldiers immediately turned serious. Brat, are you courting death? 10 soldiers surrounded him. Ting Qingshan shook his head and smiled. Phew! Leaving behind a blurry afterimage, Ting Qingshan passed through the gaps in the crowd. Ah! The soldiers watched in shock as the afterimage disappeared. When they turned to look, Ting Qingshan had already entered the mansion. The strangest thing was, Ting Qingshan seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll, but every step he took covered a distance of 7 to 8 zhang. His figure blurred a few times before he completely disappeared from their line of sight. The soldiers looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Assassin! Assassin! The group of soldiers immediately began to shout loudly. Assassin! The shouts resounded throughout the entire Dong mansion. Even the people on the streets outside the Dong mansion were in an uproar. Assassin! Assassin! There were many patrolling soldiers in the Dong mansion, as well as many powerful hanger-ons. When the shrill cry of "assassin" rang out, the entire Dong mansion instantly became noisy. Halt! When Ting Qingshan heard the shout, he smiled and continued to walk forward. At this moment, Ting Qingshan was executing the Qing Gong body art created through the Tao of Earth element. Of course, this Qing Gong body art was still in the initial stage, so its speed wasn't as fast as Ting Qingshan had imagined. Even so, it was faster than the speed of an ordinary Golden Dan innate Qing Gong. The assassin is over here. Over here. The shouts attracted a large number of soldiers towards the source of the voice. However, many of them could only watch as Ting Qingshan's figure blurred a few times before disappearing from their line of sight. His speed was too fast. His body art was too strange. Haha, Dongzhi, you slut! Did you hear that? Someone is here to assassinate you. Haha! I've said it before, even the heavens will come to deal with a slut like you. Now, someone is here to kill you. Haha! The laughter was slightly strange, as if there was a hole in the mouth. Ting Qingshan immediately followed the sound and strolled towards it. Capture him! Kill him! Amidst the encirclement, Ting Qingshan easily arrived at a garden. Third brother Tai, you have a backbone. You even scolded me after I pulled out 9 of your teeth. Alright, continue. Pull out 9 more teeth. Slowly. There's still 6 hours until evening. Pull out 9 teeth in 6 hours. You can't be too fast or too slow. A voice that seemed to be high and mighty sounded. You slut, even if man doesn't deal with you, the heavens will deal with you. Don't you dare. Woo. Cries of pain sounded. There were many experts in this beautiful garden. However, none of them stopped Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan looked at the beautiful woman in red who looked to be in her 30s or 40s. The beautiful woman sat on a high chair with a row of experts standing behind her. At this moment, her pair of foxy eyes swept over Ting Qingshan. Are you Dong Zhizi? Ting Qingshan asked indifferently. 2 chapters completed, Tomato is calling for some monthly vote. The demand for monthly votes is very high. If you have monthly votes, please support Tomato. If you don't, recommendation votes are good too. Hee, Tomato loves votes the most, yes. Chapter 370. In this garden, the ground was paved with neatly arranged bluestones. There was no snow on the ground, only the flowers, grasses, and trees had accumulated some snow. Ah, woo, low cries of pain came from the side. A muscular one-eyed man was tied to a metal pillar. Someone was using a pair of metal pliers to bend metal to reach into the one-eyed man's mouth. Fresh blood flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. Of course, at this moment, almost everyone's gaze was on Ting Qingshan. Protect the patriarch! Capture the assassin! Shouts rose and fell one after another. Rumble, a large number of soldiers and hangers-on rushed into the garden. Stop! A clear, loud, and powerful command came from the mouth of the beautiful woman sitting high on the chair. Immediately, all the experts in the garden stopped attacking Ting Qingshan. However, they still surrounded Ting Qingshan, ready to attack at any moment. Ting Qingshan was interested. He lifted his head to look at Dong Zhizi and said, Female patriarch? Keeping male concubines? Does she enjoy torturing and killing people? Ting Qingshan scrutinized Dong Zhizi. What kind of female heroine was she? Dong Zhizi had a voluptuous figure and a rosy complexion. Her eyes, in particular, shone faintly and were very foxy. Dong Zhizi's eyes lit up when she saw Ting Qingshan. She praised, "What a handsome young man!" In Dong Zhizi's opinion, Ting Qingshan had a much better temperament than her male concubines. Compared to Ting Qingshan, those male concubines were nothing. "You're looking for me?" Dong Zhizi sat on the throne. Her lips curled into a smile. She rubbed her hands together and said with a smile, "You are indeed courageous. You actually dared to assassinate me. There are countless people who want to assassinate me, but I, Dong Zhizi, am still alive today. However, I am a very forgiving person. I will pardon you. However, from today onwards, you will be my 10th male concubine." Dong Zhizi's voice reverberated in the garden. Ting Qingshan was stunned. Male concubine? I became her male concubine. This Dong Zhizi really doesn't know that she's about to die. Ting Qingshan shook his head inwardly. At the same time, he strode towards Dong Zhizi and said with a smile, "Dong Zhizi, you old witch. You're at death's door, yet you're still clueless. What a joke." Dong Zhizi's expression changed slightly when she heard this. Old witch? She, Dong Zhizi, hated it the most when people mentioned her age. As an innate expert, Dong Zhizi's appearance was fixed at the age of 30. It was the age when she was at her most enchanting. Although she was almost 60 years old, it was hard to tell from her appearance. "Take him down." Dong Zhizi's expression darkened as she shouted. However, she quickly added, "Don't take his life." "Yes." Immediately, the mighty group of people who had originally surrounded Ting Qingshan responded in unison. Each of them was like a ferocious lion or tiger, wielding their weapons as they charged towards Ting Qingshan. "How interesting!" Ting Qingshan looked at the inner strength experts and soldiers who wanted to make a contribution. He shook his head and said, "Forget it, I won't bother with them." Hundreds of people surrounded Ting Qingshan. However, Ting Qingshan's figure was erratic, flickering like a ghost. Every time he flickered, he would travel a distance of several zhang. "Don't even think about escaping." Two guests simultaneously slapped their palms at Ting Qingshan. However, Ting Qingshan disappeared in a flash, and the two of them slapped him instead. This scene caused the expression of Dong Zhizi, who was sitting high on the throne, to change. What a powerful movement technique! Just by looking at this movement technique, this person is most likely an innate martial saint expert. To think that a martial saint would come to assassinate me. However, I don't know this person at all. Many clans had attended the auction of the blunt vanadium stone tablets in Nanshan City. "Kill him for me," Dong Zhizi shouted sternly. Upon hearing the order, the mercenaries and soldiers, who had their hands and feet tied, all roared. Sharp arrows, concealed weapons, poisons. Every single one of them flew towards Ting Qingshan, covering the sky and the earth. Swish! Ting Qingshan took 3 consecutive steps, each of which covered a distance of 8 zhang. He walked out of the crowd's encirclement and arrived less than 10 zhang away from Dong Zhizi. "Old witch, do you think these people with mediocre martial arts can kill me?" Ting Qingshan smiled as he continued to advance. He was neither impatient nor impatient. His steps were not fast either. "Go!" Dong Zhizi waved her hand. Immediately, the group of experts standing in a row behind her drew their sabers at the same time. Clang clang, the sound of sabers being unsheathed rang out. There were a total of 16 experts, and all of them wielded sabers. "Die!" The 16 experts pounced forward. Ting Qingshan took a step and covered a distance of 2 zhang. He easily passed through the group of 16 experts. The experts' expressions changed drastically as they surrounded Ting Qingshan with even more ferocity. Ting Qingshan smiled and took another step, covering another 2 zhang. In Ting Qingshan's eyes, the surrounding experts did not seem to exist at all. At this moment, he was only 2 zhang away from Dong Zhizi. Humph! Dong Zhizi slapped the throne and turned into a red blur as she retreated at an extreme speed. "Ha, Dong Zhizi, to think that you would have such a day. Ha!" The one-eyed man who was tied to the metal rod howled excitedly. "Brother, Tai-san, thank you. Ha!" Even though many of his teeth had been plucked out, the one-eyed man was extremely excited. Ting Qingshan's figure made a strange curve as though he was a loach slipping through water. "Old witch, don't run." Ting Qingshan's voice was like rolling thunder as it resounded in Dong Zhizi's ears. Dong Zhizi only saw a flash before her eyes and Ting Qingshan appeared in front of her. "You," Dong Zhizi's face paled as she stared at the youth in front of her. "Who hired you to deal with me?" Dong Zhizi retreated 2 steps. "My Dong clan will pay you double, no, triple the amount of money that other people paid you. Tell me, my Dong clan will really pay you. You should know how much wealth my Dong clan has. We can definitely afford it." "You can't afford it." Ting Qingshan smiled as he stepped forward. His right hand was like a sharp claw as he grabbed at Dong Zhizi. Dong Zhizi's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. She swiped at her waist and a purple radiance lit up. It was Dong Zhizi's personal sword. At the same time, a black lightning shot out from Dong Zhizi's left hand towards Ting Qingshan. Swish! Ting Qingshan waved his left hand and caught a diamond-shaped concealed weapon. His right hand easily grabbed the purple flexible sword. "You!" Dong Zhizi turned pale with fright. The purple-colored innate true origin on her body burst forth as she desperately tried to pull out the purple flexible sword. However, Ting Qingshan's right hand held onto the purple flexible sword like an iron hoop, preventing the purple flexible sword from being pulled out. How can his hand grab a divine weapon? Dong Zhizi was stunned. "I'm a martial saint. How can he grab my sharp sword with his bare hands? Who is he? You want to play concealed weapons with me? Ting Qingshan exerted strength in his left hand and the diamond-shaped concealed weapon was crushed into powder by Ting Qingshan. Ting Qingshan took a step forward. Bang! Ting Qingshan's fist smashed into Dong Zhizi's abdomen at lightning speed. It was so fast that Dong Zhizi didn't even have time to dodge. Dong Zhizi was knocked back a few steps by Ting Qingshan's punch. Pfft! Dong Zhizi's face instantly turned pale as she spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Dong Zhizi's expression changed drastically as she screamed, You destroyed my dantian. Enough with the nonsense. Ting Qingshan's figure flashed and easily grabbed onto Dong Zhizi's shoulders. With a little force, he dislocated Dong Zhizi's shoulder bones. Dong Zhizi's arms hung limply at her sides. Let's go. Ting Qingshan carried Dong Zhizi on his shoulders and immediately prepared to leave. You bastard, you bastard. Release me now, or else you'll definitely regret it. Dong Zhizi screamed. My Dong clan will definitely not let you off. She was caught in an instant, and even the innate true origin that she had painstakingly cultivated was completely crippled in an instant. Dong Zhizi was completely enraged. Release the patriarch. A group of soldiers and hangers-on wielded weapons, but they were hesitant. They had all witnessed Ting Qingshan's strength. Even though they knew that they had no way of dealing with Ting Qingshan, they couldn't just watch as he slipped away, could they? Who dares to be impudent in my Dong clan? An angry roar reverberated in the sky above the Dong clan like the rumbling of heavenly thunder. A black shadow shot over from afar. Ting Qingshan, who was carrying Dong Zhizi's body, cast a glance at the approaching person, shook his head, and smiled. With a leap, he flew up to the roof. Release me now! Dong Zhizi screamed. Ting Qingshan carried Dong Zhizi's body and walked on the roof. He said coldly, Old witch, if you continue to spout nonsense, I'll sell you to a brothel. Dong Zhizi's face turned deathly pale when she heard this. She was a high and mighty female patriarch who was addressed as Queen Dong. Sell her to a brothel? That was worse than killing her. Die! The black shadow shot over, and a sword shadow lit up. Ting Qingshan's figure flashed in a strange manner, swimming Pisces body technique. Easily dodging to the side of the black shadow, Ting Qingshan kicked out with lightning speed. Purring! The kick landed on the black shadow's waist. The terrifying force of the kick, which weighed hundreds of thousands of jin, sent the black shadow flying down like a shooting star. Purring! 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 The black shadow only stopped after smashing through a tree, a wall, and leaving a deep ravine on the ground. How is this possible? Dong Zhizi widened her eyes. That person was the #1 expert of the Dong clan, a martial saint expert who had reached the true Dan innate realm. Sent flying with a kick? One move? Ha ha, slut, to think that you would have such a day. Ha ha! The one-eyed man who was tied to the metal rod raised his head and laughed. Blood flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. Who is he? The black shadow sat up with difficulty and watched as Ting Qingshan carried Dong Zhizi's body and disappeared from his sight. The other soldiers and guests were completely dumbfounded as they watched in a daze. Only the one-eyed man who was tied up raised his head and shouted excitedly. His laughter resounded in the sky above the Dong clan. A moment later, cheerful cries resounded throughout the heavens and earth. Ting Qingshan sat on the back of the whole Gale Eagle while carrying Dong Zhizi's body and rapidly flew towards the south. Chapter 371. The speed of the whole Gale Eagle was extremely fast. Sitting on its back, the wind was also very strong. At this moment, Dong Zhizi's dantian had been destroyed, so there was no way she could sit steadily on the eagle's back. Furthermore, the eagle's back wasn't big, so Ting Qingshan could only carry her on his back and hold on to her legs. Mister, there is no enmity between you and my Dong clan. Dong Zhizi lay on Ting Qingshan's back and smiled. You came to capture me this time, but you didn't hurt my subordinates. You are a kind person. Mister, wasn't it for money that someone hired you to capture me? Mister, just name a number. Trust me, I, Dong Zhizi, can still afford it. After witnessing Ting Qingshan's strength, Dong Zhizi could only resort to a soft approach. Shut up! Ting Qingshan shouted coldly. At the same time, he frowned and thought to himself, I'm going to enter Wuan City while carrying Dong Zhizi. Entering the city while carrying a woman. I'm afraid people will start pointing at me. If only I had a horse carriage. Unfortunately, the whole Gale Eagle is parked outside the city. There's no way to hire a horse carriage outside the city gates. Ting Qingshan was vexed. How was he going to enter Wuan City? Carrying an enchanting woman and swaggering in alone? He would probably be surrounded by passers-by. This method wouldn't work. Carrying Dong Zhizi, sitting on the back of the whole Gale Eagle, and directly flying into the city? There would probably be even more onlookers. He wanted to hire a horse carriage, but there was no place outside the city to hire one. Sorry for the trouble. Ting Qingshan shook his head. Suddenly, Ting Qingshan felt a soft sensation on his back. He frowned and said, Dong Zhizi, are you courting death? Dong Zhizi, who was lying on Ting Qingshan's back, was Dong Zhizi had been cultivating inner strength since she was young and reached the innate realm when she was in her 30s. In terms of appearance and figure, she was definitely at her most enchanting stage. Furthermore, she knew men very well. Mister, don't be angry. Dong Zhizi turned her head and blew lightly on Ting Qingshan's neck. Who? Dong Zhizi, who was originally carried on Ting Qingshan's back, was put down by Ting Qingshan and placed in front of him. Dong Zhizi first widened her eyes in shock, then looked at Ting Qingshan in astonishment. Her face revealed a flirtatious pink, as though she was ready to be plucked by him. However, she thought to herself, these stinky men are all the same in front of women. So what if they are Golden Dan innate martial saints? Didn't they still prostrate themselves before me? However, to be able to make love with this Golden Dan innate martial saint in the sky, Dong Zhizi was somewhat excited. It had to be said, this Dong Zhizi was indeed very charming. Just as she closed her eyes and waited for Ting Qingshan to bully her, Ting Qingshan stretched out his left hand and pressed lightly on the back of Dong Zhizi's neck. Dong Zhizi felt a wave of dizziness and immediately fainted. How noisy! Ting Qingshan grabbed onto Dong Zhizi's shoulder with his left hand, stabilizing her body as she flew through the air. Seducing a woman? Ting Qingshan had been trained as an assassin in his previous life. If he couldn't resist a woman's seduction, then Ting Qingshan would have died long ago in his previous life. It looks like there's only the most direct way to enter Wuan City. Ting Qingshan couldn't think of any other way. The whole Gale Eagle hovered a few hundred zhang above Wuan City. Ting Qingshan looked down and observed carefully. The Rising Sun restaurant is the most luxurious restaurant. It should be located in the center of Wuan City, the most flourishing area. With Ting Qingshan's eyesight, he could clearly see the streets and shops below, even though he was a few hundred zhang high up in the sky. There were only a few main roads in Wuan City, and they were very conspicuous from a high altitude. As for the Rising Sun restaurant, the architecture of the Rising Sun restaurant was very unique. Very soon, Ting Qingshan discovered the location of the Rising Sun restaurant. Phew! Carrying the unconscious Dong Zhizi, Ting Qingshan leaped down from the eagle's back. High up in the sky, Ting Qingshan rapidly descended like a black shadow. Humph! Ting Qingshan fell horizontally. At the same time, a red wing-like membrane extended from his waist. With this, the resistance of the wind immediately increased, causing Ting Qingshan's falling speed to decrease significantly. However, even with the decrease in speed, his falling speed was still astonishing. Swish! Like a meteorite, under Ting Qingshan's subtle control, Ting Qingshan directly fell into the spacious courtyard of the luxurious mansion behind the Rising Sun restaurant. Bang! A shocking hole appeared in the front courtyard. Ting Qingshan's entire body, as well as Dong Zhizi's body, were enveloped by the red innate true origin. The strong impact of the fall caused many experts that the Rising Sun Trading Company had arranged to appear. Almost 100 people flew out. Who's there? Few. Under the watchful eyes of almost 100 people, Ting Qingshan, whose entire body was enveloped in flames, leaped out of the huge hole. He then placed Dong Zhizi, who was on his back, to the side and said, "Fortunately, I acted as your cushion and enveloped you with a large amount of innate true origin. Otherwise, you would have died from the impact while you were unconscious." "Who are you?" Almost 100 people surrounded Ting Qingshan, but they were all slightly hesitant. Forming a protective shield on the surface of one's body with true origin was the sign of an innate martial saint. "Get the chief supervisor of Wuan City here." As Ting Qingshan spoke, he took out a token from his bosom. It was the token of the Rising Sun Trading Company's deacon. Many people took a closer look. "Greetings, Lord Deacon." They all bowed respectfully. The manager of the Rising Sun restaurant ran over as well. "Deacon Ting." The manager hastily bowed respectfully. "The trading company just informed us that Deacon Ting would come to Wuan City. I didn't expect that Deacon Ting would arrive so soon." As he spoke, he cast a glance at Dong Zhizi, who was lying on the ground. He glared fiercely at Dong Zhizi's enchanting body. He only knew that Deacon Ting would capture someone. As for who he would capture, he didn't know. At this moment, Dong Zhizi was thrown on the ground with a face covered in dust. The manager really didn't recognize her. "Get your chief supervisor here. Tell him that the mission is completed," Ting Qingshan ordered. Yes. The manager hastily made arrangements. In a quiet house in Wuan City, this was the temporary residence of the Jiang clan. The vice supervisor of the Hall of Assassins in Wuan City had arrived. "Vice supervisor, please take a seat," the slightly plump elder said with a smile. The third young master, who had already succeeded as the patriarch of the Jiang clan, hastily asked, "Vice supervisor, did the most powerful martial saint agree to accept the mission?" "Ha!" The vice supervisor chuckled and cupped his hands. "Congratulations, Patriarch Jiang. The most powerful martial saint has already captured Dong Zhizi and brought her to Wuan City." "What?" In the hall, the third young master, the slightly plump elder, and the tall and skinny elder were all astonished. "Yesterday afternoon, just now. The three of them couldn't believe it. From here to Shuangshan City was almost 1,000 li away. So fast? Ha! How powerful is the most powerful martial saint?" The vice supervisor laughed and said, "Now, please prepare the gold and stone inscriptions and send them to the back residence of the Rising Sun restaurant." "All right." The third young master stood up abruptly, his eyes glowing. "Dong Zhizi, that bitch. I will make her beg for death." The third young master's eyes flickered with an ominous glint. His heart was filled with endless hatred and ruthlessness. He would never forget those nightmarish days. The most powerful martial saint is indeed powerful. The plump elder praised. Yesterday afternoon they had just issued the mission. This morning, Ting Qingshan rode the whole Gale Eagle and departed for Shuangshan City. He arrived at noon and had lunch before capturing Dong Zhizi. The distance between Shuangshan City and Wuan City was only 1,000 li. With the speed of the whole Gale Eagle, it would take less than 2 hours to arrive. Only 1 day had passed, and Dong Zhizi had already been captured. She had even been sent to Wuan City. Such speed was indeed shocking. In the quiet living room of the back residence of the Rising Sun restaurant, Dong Zhizi's body was lying powerlessly on a chair with her eyes closed. It was obvious that she was still unconscious. Other than Dong Zhizi, Ting Qingshan and a white-haired elder were also in the living room. Head Supervisor, when will the stone inscriptions arrive? Ting Qingshan asked with a frown. Mr. Ting. The elder chuckled and said, the mission was just issued yesterday, and Mr. has already sent her here today. I'm afraid that the Jiang clan is still thinking whether the most powerful martial saint will accept the mission or not. They probably never imagined that the most powerful martial saint would be sent here on the second day. Therefore, I guess the Jiang clan was caught unprepared. The elder said with a smile. This elder was the head supervisor of the Rising Sun Trading Company in Wuan City. He had a high status and many people had to listen to his orders. However, in front of Ting Qingshan, he didn't dare to be arrogant. He knew very well how terrifying the strength of the person before him was. But don't worry, mister. They are currently in the city and will send the stone inscriptions here very soon. The elder said. Ting Qingshan nodded. Ting Qingshan suddenly turned to look at Dong Zhizi and sneered. Dong Zhizi, stop pretending to be unconscious. Since you are awake, open your eyes. Ting Qingshan's hearing was amazing. Based on the breathing and heartbeat of others, Ting Qingshan could determine whether the other party was awake or not. Humph. Dong Zhizi opened her eyes and glared at Ting Qingshan, her eyes blazing with anger. Dong Zhizi, Mr. has accepted a mission from the Hall of Assassins. You don't have to stare at him like that. The head supervisor said coldly. Hall of Assassins? Dong Zhizi was shocked. Someone had hired the Hall of Assassins to capture her? Thinking of the consequences, Dong Zhizi was so anxious that her mind was in a mess. She glared at Ting Qingshan like an enraged lion. You better let me go. You entered my Dong clan openly. Many people have seen your appearance. If you don't let me go, my Dong clan will definitely take revenge on you. Definitely. Openly? The head supervisor looked at Ting Qingshan in shock. Oh, revenge? Ting Qingshan smiled at Dong Zhizi. Dong Zhizi gritted her teeth. Don't act like you don't care. Listen carefully. If anything happens to me, my Dong clan will definitely not let you off. Even if I can't kill you, my Dong clan will take revenge on your family and friends. We definitely will. Dong Zhizi, who had sunk into madness, started to threaten Ting Qingshan. Take revenge on my family and friends? Ting Qingshan smiled as he looked at the hysterical woman. Dong Zhizi, stop dreaming. Your tiny Dong clan wants to take revenge on Mr.? The head supervisor sneered. If a woman like you dies, so be it. People die every day in the struggle for hegemony. If you die, the Dong clan won't fight with Mr. for you. Furthermore, they don't have the qualifications to fight. Shut up. Dong Zhizi said sternly. You're just a supervisor. How dare you interrupt me? Who do you think you are? Humph. The head supervisor's face darkened. No matter how good-tempered the head supervisor was, he was still angry. Her Dantian was destroyed, she was captured, and she knew that the Hall of Assassins was behind this. Dong Zhizi knew that she was done for after a series of setbacks. She was like a drowning person who would grab at anything before dying. Dong Zhizi was the same. Mr. Head Supervisor. The manager of the Rising Sun restaurant ran in and said with a smile, the Jiang clan has arrived. Ting Qingshan's eyes revealed a hint of joy. What, the Jiang clan? Dong Zhizi, who had gone mad, was stunned. Her face instantly turned pale and her body trembled uncontrollably. Did the Jiang clan ask the Hall of Assassins to capture me? Chapter 372. Guards! The head supervisor shouted loudly. 2 men immediately ran in from outside the hall. The head supervisor pointed at Dong Zhizi and ordered, carry this woman to the front hall. Yes, my lord. The 2 men responded respectfully and went to carry Dong Zhizi. At this moment, Dong Zhizi finally came to her senses. She hastily looked at the head supervisor and said anxiously, Supervisor, I beg the Hall of Assassins. Please don't hand me over to the Jiang clan. Kill me, kill me. Dong Zhizi's face turned pale. She clenched her teeth and slammed her head against the wall. Phew! One of the two subordinates, a burly man, suddenly grabbed Dong Zhizi's body, causing her to tumble to the ground. In front of so many experts, Dong Zhizi, who was already a cripple, couldn't even commit suicide if she wanted to. Kill you? Humph! The head supervisor waved his hand. The two men had already lifted Dong Zhizi. Dong Zhizi struggled frantically in fear. No, no! She then looked at Ting Qingshan with pleading eyes. I beg you, kill me. Kill me. If I fall into the hands of the Jiang clan, they will torture me to death. I beg you, kill me. Dong Zhizi was easily carried away by the two strong men amidst her mournful screams. Dong Zhizi, whose arms had been amputated, couldn't even commit suicide. This bitch even threatened Mr. just now. What a joke. The head supervisor sneered and looked at Ting Qingshan with a smile. Mr. Ting, this person has been sent over. The stone inscription will arrive soon. Please wait patiently. Ting Qingshan nodded. In just a short while, Ting Qingshan heard Dong Zhizi's mournful screams from afar, as well as a hearty laughter filled with hatred. Haha, bitch, you deserve this day. The voice caused the head supervisor to laugh. Mr. Ting, the Jiang clan has long hated Dong Zhizi to the core. Even the previous patriarch of the Jiang clan was captured and tortured to death. When Ting Qingshan heard this, he nodded his head and sighed in his heart. Just 2 hours ago, Dong Zhizi was still the patriarch of the Dong clan and a martial saint of the innate realm. He even wantonly tortured and toyed with Tai Laosan. When facing Ting Qingshan, he could still say, "From today onwards, you are my 10th male concubine." But in the blink of an eye, she had fallen into the hands of the Jiang family. Mr. Ting. Laughter came from outside the hall. The manager of the Rising Sun restaurant was smiling as he walked in with a strong man dressed in a green leather coat. This strong man was carrying a bar-shaped object wrapped in a gray cloth on his shoulder. Ting Qingshan's gaze fell on that strip-shaped object. He stood up with a whoosh, his eyes shining. It's the same size as the blunt vanadium stone slab. I reckon it's that stone inscription. When the chief steward saw this, he could not help but stand up with a smile. Mr. Ting, this is one of the 36 stone inscriptions left behind by the godly axe deity, Yu the Great. The manager extended his hand and took the stone inscription from the strong man. At the same time, he lifted the gray cloth on the surface of the stone inscription. When the gray cloth was removed, a stone inscription that looked like a piece of jade was revealed. The stone inscription glowed faintly with a green halo. On the left side of the stone inscription was the inscription of a figure leaping high and swinging an enormous axe. On the right side of the stone inscription was the word, Dao, filled with a murderous aura. At first glance, even Ting Qingshan could feel a powerful aura surging towards him, as if an enormous axe was cleaving towards him. It's the real deal. Ting Qingshan's eyes shone brightly as he examined the stone inscription. He exclaimed, as expected of the stone inscription personally carved by the godly axe deity. The aura is obviously different from the blunt vanadium stone slab. The chief steward also stared at the stone inscription and revealed an expression of amazement. The godly axe deity, Yu the Great, is indeed the godly person who created the cultivation method and spread it throughout the world. An ordinary stone has become so mystical after being carved by him. Ting Qingshan took 2 steps forward and formed his right hand into a sharp claw, swiping at the stone inscription. Mr. Ting. The chief steward was shocked. Mr. Ting, don't. The manager, who was holding the stone inscription, turned pale with fright. However, he did not have the time to dodge. Clang, Ting Qingshan clawed the edge of the stone inscription with his right hand, and the sound of metal clashing resounded. Immediately, powder rolled down and 2 deep grooves appeared. When the chief steward saw that Ting Qingshan had only scratched the edge of the stone inscription, and the diagram and the word Dao were not damaged, he heaved a sigh of relief. He couldn't help but walk over and say with a bitter smile, "Mr. Ting, what are you doing? This is a stone inscription left behind by the godly axe deity. If a piece is damaged, there will be one less." Chief steward, look. The manager stared at the stone inscription in astonishment. The head steward turned his head, and when he saw it, he was also shocked. The grooves that had been scratched by Ting Qingshan were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths, the stone inscription became undamaged again, as if it had never been damaged. This is too magical," the chief steward exclaimed. A smile appeared on Ting Qingshan's face. When he entered the Heavenly Flood Palace in the Great Yen Mountain, the wall of the Heavenly Flood Palace had been like this. Even a Golden Dan innate expert would be able to blast a hole in the wall. It would also recover quickly. This stone inscription also contained the power of Emperor Yu's world. Because of this, ordinary stones became jade-like. After testing it, it was as expected. "Manager, wrap up this stone inscription," Ting Qingshan instructed with a smile. "I won't stay any longer. I'll be leaving first." "Mister, it won't be too late to leave tomorrow." The manager and the chief steward urged him to stay. However, Ting Qingshan just smiled and shook his head. "Mister, besides this stone inscription, there are also 10,000 taels of gold," the manager hastily said. Ting Qingshan shook his head and said, "No need. 10,000 taels of gold weighed 1,000 jin. The whole Gale Eagle would fly much slower if it was carried." Moreover, Ting Qingshan didn't care about money anymore. Ting Qingshan didn't care about money. After all, when he reached the emptiness realm, Ting Qingshan would return to the land of the 9 prefectures. Would he bring chests of gold back to the land of the 9 prefectures? Even 1,000,000 taels of gold was nothing in the eyes of the sex in the land of the 9 prefectures. "This is what we should do," the head steward hastily said. "The Rising Sun Trading Company will arrange for someone to send this 10,000 taels of gold to the foot of the godly Axe Mountain." Ting Qingshan didn't say anything else. He took the wrapped stone inscription and walked out. Screech, outside Wuan City, Ting Qingshan leaped onto the back of the whole Gale Eagle. With an excited cry, the whole Gale Eagle flapped its wings and quickly disappeared into the southwest horizon. In the main hall of the Dong clan's mansion in Shuangshan City, dozens of people gathered in the main hall. These people were the direct descendants and elites of the Dong clan. The person sitting on the main seat was a pale, silver-haired elder dressed in a black fur coat. On the chairs on both sides of the hall sat the higher-ups of the Dong clan. Everyone knew that, just over 2 hours ago, the patriarch of the Dong clan, Dong Zhizi, was forcefully broken into the Dong clan and taken away. The hall was filled with murmurs of discussion. Some people were extremely furious, but there were also some who occasionally revealed a hint of joy. If Dong Zhizi died, many people would be able to take over the position. At this moment, a lean man quickly entered the hall. "Have you found out who that person is?" the silver-haired elder asked coldly. Reporting to Grand Elder, according to the portrait, the person who broke into our Dong clan is the expert, Ting Qingshan, who appeared in southern mountain cities Drifting Cloud Mansion not long ago. Rumor has it that this Ting Qingshan's strength is extremely terrifying. Even the Thunderblade Martial Saint, Fu Dao, is more powerful than him and even respectfully calls him Mr. The Rising Sun Trading Company's Grand Elder is also very friendly to him. According to the information, this Ting Qingshan should be a Golden Core innate martial saint. Moreover, his strength is probably close to the Rising Sun Martial Saint, the lean man reported respectfully. Many people in the hall sucked in a cold breath. The silver-haired elder narrowed his eyes. Previously, he was sent flying by a kick from Ting Qingshan. The silver-haired elder knew very well that without the strength of a golden core innate martial saint, it would be impossible for him to do so. Immediately, a middle-aged man stood up and said angrily, "This Ting Qingshan broke into the Dong clan and captured the patriarch of the Dong clan. He's too arrogant. It's no different than slapping the face of the Dong clan. We must avenge this great humiliation." Avenge? Who's going to avenge? A skinny man with a pale face sneered. "You sit down," the silver-haired elder scolded. The middle-aged man sat down resentfully and helplessly. In the hall, the higher-ups of the Dong clan all had their own thoughts. Even if someone said that they would avenge, it was just for show. Avenge? In the Eastern Flower region, the Dong clan was considered to have some strength. However, to avenge a golden core innate martial saint? If word of this spread, it would be a huge joke. Jizi was captured and his Dantian was destroyed. Even if he survives, he is not qualified to be the patriarch. The silver-haired elder looked at the group of people below and said, "From today onwards, Jiyun, you will be the new patriarch of the Dong clan." When these words were spoken, the expressions of many people who were originally happy changed. They never expected that this grand elder would directly choose someone to be the patriarch. He didn't even discuss it. The refined and handsome middle-aged man stood up and said respectfully, "Yes, Grand Elder." The silver-haired elder nodded and swept his cold gaze across the people below. No one dared to disobey his orders. "Great-grandfather, my mother was captured. Are we not going to do anything about it?" A young girl who bore a striking resemblance to Dong Jizi but appeared to be more beautiful and lively stood up and said angrily, "Impudent!" The silver-haired elder's face darkened. "Dong Shi, how can you speak to the Grand Elder like that?" Many people immediately scolded Dong Shi. However, Dong Shi clenched her teeth and turned to walk out of the hall. The Eastern Flower region's Wuan city was very far from the Nanshan city of the Nanshan region. When Ting Qingshan arrived at the crescent moon lake of the godly Axe Mountain on the whole Gale Eagle, it was already pitch black. The doors of the houses were tightly shut, and there was a faint light shining through. It was obvious that they hadn't slept yet. Whoosh, whoosh. The cold wind whistled as the whole Gale Eagle swooped down. Screech, the whole Gale Eagle immediately screeched. Immediately, the doors of the two stone houses opened. Li Jun and Little Ping were in one house, while Ting Shou and Old Wang were in the other. "Big brother Ting," Li Jun shouted in surprise. "Teacher," Ting Shou also shouted. Ting Qingshan held the stone inscription and leaped down from the eagle's back. The whole Gale Eagle flapped its wings proudly, as if it was taking credit. "Yes, Little Gray is good." Li Jun patted the whole Gale Eagle's back and looked at Ting Qingshan. "Big brother Ting, you haven't eaten dinner yet, right? I'll go heat it up." With this, Li Jun ran into the house, and Little Ping ran over to help. Ting Qingshan felt warmth in his heart when he returned at night with someone helping to heat up the meal. After dinner, the impatient Ting Qingshan walked out of the house with the splitting mountain axe in one hand and the stone inscription in the other. He started cultivating overnight. The combination of the splitting mountain axe and the stone inscription. According to Emperor Yu, even an ordinary innate expert would be able to step into the emptiness realm within a few dozen years. As for me, I have already stepped into the doorstep. Ting Qingshan was slightly excited. With the help of this stone inscription, he would definitely improve greatly. He might even be able to step into the emptiness realm within a year or two. Chapter 373. The night was as dark as ink and the strong wind howled. The stone inscription that glowed with an azure-green glow was inserted into the snow. At this moment, the splitting mountain axe in Ting Qingshan's hand also glowed with a faint glow. Rays of azure-green light that were hard to discern with the naked eye emanated from the splitting mountain axe and merged with the stone inscription. As for Ting Qingshan, he stood there with his eyes closed, motionless. The ninth move of the splitting mountain axe. Emperor Yu's voice, which caused the heavens and the earth to tremble, reverberated in everyone's ears. A tall figure suddenly leaped up high into the clouds. He held the splitting mountain axe with both hands and slashed downward. Rumble, under this furious slash, a huge crack appeared on the towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. Countless huge rocks tumbled down, creating a loud rumble. A tall mountain was split into two by the axe. Immediately, this scene disappeared, and the detailed scenes of using the ninth move appeared in Ting Qingshan's mind. Ting Qingshan was completely immersed in the artistic conception that Emperor Yu had created. Ting Qingshan looked at the scene in front of his eyes. Ting Qingshan was completely immersed in the conception that Emperor Yu had created. After a long time, Ting Qingshan opened his eyes. Emperor Yu is really powerful. It's just the ninth move, but he actually divided it into dozens of simplified moves. Ting Qingshan was amazed. The 36 splitting mountain forms was Emperor Yu's strongest offensive move. It was extremely difficult to comprehend. If one only saw Emperor Yu perform the ninth move, they wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Therefore, Emperor Yu divided the ninth move and described it in detail with various moves, trying to make it as simple as possible. Emperor Yu's technique is powerful. However, he said that even an ordinary innate expert could reach the emptiness realm within a few decades. It was a lie. If it was an ordinary innate expert, even if he had the splitting mountain axe and the 36 inscriptions, he would only be able to see Emperor Yu's detailed description of each move. He could only see Emperor Yu's detailed description of each move. The Tao of Heaven could not be described with words. Even though Emperor Yu's description of the Tao of Heaven was very simple, it was only relative. It is still very difficult for an ordinary innate expert to comprehend it. Ting Qingshan only understood after he immersed himself in the technique. The splitting mountain axe combined with the stone carvings reduced the difficulty of cultivation by 90%. However, it wasn't something that an ordinary inborn expert could comprehend. However, Ting Qingshan was different. His realm was already very high. Even without the stone carvings, it would only take him a few more years. With this stone inscription, Emperor Yu purposely divided one move into 10 moves. Ting Qingshan comprehended it very quickly. The ninth form contains the metal elemental Tao and the earth elemental Tao. If I spend some time, I might be able to create the fifth form of my 5 elemental spear art. Currently, Ting Qingshan only had 4 moves in his spear art. The first was Transmutation Unity Law, the second was Pursuing Shadow, the third was Toxic Dragon Drill, and the fourth was Vermilion Tiger Roar. All that was left was the spear art derived from the Cleaving Fist. The Cleaving Fist belonged to the metal element and was the head of the 5 element. It was shaped like an axe and was formed by the rising and falling of qi. When the Cleaving Fist struck out, it was like an axe cleaving out with great power. The Cleaving Fist was the most difficult move in the 5 elements boxing of Xing-Yi martial arts. The metal element was sharp and unstoppable. It was also the most difficult to comprehend. In Ting Qingshan's previous life, the grandmasters of the 5 elements boxing of Xing-Yi studied the Bursting Fist the most. The Bursting Fist was like an arrow and the punches were like drawing a bow and shooting an arrow. The punches were continuous and continuous. The Drilling Fist was the fastest. The Cannon Fist was the most powerful. The Horizontal Fist was the foundation of the 5 elements. The Cleaving Fist was the head of the 5 elements and was the most powerful. Among the 5 elements boxing, the Bursting Fist was undoubtedly the most balanced. Regardless of attack, defense, speed, etc., it was very balanced. Therefore, the grandmasters who studied this move painstakingly were the most. The Cleaving Fist and this axe art have something in common. As Ting Qingshan studied this axe art, he also began to ponder the 5th move of the 5 elements spear art. Ever since he obtained the 9th stone inscription, Ting Qingshan studied this axe art almost every day. However, He didn't know, within a few days, most of the clans in Duanmu continent knew that he broke into the Dong clan and captured Dongzhi. After all, this matter was too shocking. Openly breaking into a large clan and capturing the patriarch of the innate realm. This strength was too frightening. At that time, Ting Qingshan didn't hide himself. Of course, his appearance was seen by others. It was easy to confirm that Ting Qingshan was the one who did it. In Duanmu continent, hundreds of clans fought for hegemony. There were countless hanger-ons and vagabonds. If there was a disagreement, they would draw their swords against each other, and blood would be spilled. In Duanmu continent, people had absolute admiration for the strong. In people's eyes, Ting Qingshan's domineering behavior was the behavior of a true expert. He didn't hide himself. Only those who had absolute confidence in their own strength dared to do so. A true expert who didn't care about thousands of soldiers and horses. Admiration, admiration. Of course, that was only for ordinary hanger-ons and vagabonds. In the eyes of some of the great clans, Ting Qingshan was in high demand. He was the support of the clan's prosperity. If such a super expert could join their clan, the clan would definitely become stronger. On the afternoon of the 5th day after Ting Qingshan obtained the stone inscription, by the crescent moon lake, there were many warhouse and hunchbacked beasts. A middle-aged man dressed gracefully was talking to Li Jun with a young man. Patriarch Murong, Big Brother Ting will be here soon. You can talk to Big Brother Ting then. I can't make the decision. Li Jun shook her head. At this moment, a figure dressed in an azure leather coat walked over from afar. The graceful and noble middle-aged man walked over with the young man. With a smile, he cupped his hands and said, I am Murong Jing. Greetings, Mr. Ting. Patriarch Murong. Ting Qingshan glanced at him with a smile and said, I've seen you before. Yes, we met at the Drifting Cloud Mansion. Patriarch Murong said with a smile. At the same time, he pointed at the young man beside him and said, This is my son, Murong Lufeng. Greet Mr. Ting. The young man appeared somewhat reserved. As he looked at Ting Qingshan, there was a hint of passion in his eyes. He hastily bowed respectfully and said, Murong Lufeng greets Mr. Ting. Ting Qingshan looked at him and asked with a smile, Patriarch Murong, which young master is Murong Lufeng in your family? He is the third son. Patriarch Murong hastily answered. Ting Qingshan nodded. Patriarch Murong was surprised and happy as he said, Mr. Ting, how do you know that I have more than one son? Could it be that Mr. knows my other sons? In Patriarch Murong's opinion, this was something to be proud of. Moreover, if Ting Qingshan had an old acquaintance, it would be easier to build a relationship with him. When I first arrived at Nanshan City, Ting Qingshan said as he walked, I noticed that someone was leading a troop of cavalrymen on the streets, almost trampling the passers-by to death. I stopped them at that time. According to the passers-by, the leader of that troop was the second young master of your Murong clan. Hearing this, Patriarch Murong couldn't help but reveal an awkward expression. Patriarch Murong originally thought that Ting Qingshan was just praising him, but he actually talked about this matter. That unfilial son of mine actually dared to be so impudent. Patriarch Murong revealed a hint of anger as he said, When I return, I will definitely discipline him. Ting Qingshan smiled and walked to the front of the house. Big Brother Ting, lunch is ready. Yes. Ting Qingshan looked at Patriarch Murong and asked, May I know why Patriarch Murong has come to my place? Patriarch Murong said with a smile, Lufeng has been fond of spear arts since he was young. Now, he has made some achievements in spear arts. However, it is very difficult to become the disciple of a true spear master. There are too few spear masters. I heard that Mr. Ting is proficient in spear arts. Therefore, I shamelessly brought Feng over to ask Mr. Ting to take this child as your disciple. Teacher, please take me as your disciple. Murong Lufeng blushed slightly as he bowed and said, My disciple must fulfill 3 requirements. The first requirement is that the disciple's strength must at least reach the emptiness dan of the innate realm. Ting Qingshan glanced at them with a faint smile and said, Patriarch Murong, you guys should leave first. With this, Ting Qingshan turned and walked into the house. Mr. Ting, Mr. Ting. Patriarch Murong shouted, but Ting Qingshan ignored him. Fulfill 3 requirements, and the first requirement is to reach the emptiness dan of the innate realm? When Patriarch Murong heard this, he couldn't help but feel angry. He thought to himself, this Mr. Ting is really arrogant. How many martial saints are there in the entire Duanmu continent? I really want to see if you will accept disciples in the future. Patriarch Murong was angry, but he didn't dare to say it. Mr. Ting, then we will take our leave. The Murong clan's patriarch grabbed the Murong clan's 3rd young master, whose face was flushed red, and left swiftly with the group of guards under him. In the house, Li Jun watched the group of people leave. Big Brother Ting, these 3 requirements of yours seem very harsh. Li Jun smiled. Little Jun, I feel that these great clans might have people come to take me as their teacher. When that time comes, you can just tell them that the first requirement is to at least reach the emptiness dan of the innate realm. Ting Qingshan said. Li Jun hastily said, what if an innate expert really comes? Really? Ting Qingshan smiled faintly and said, isn't there a 2nd and 3rd requirement? Plus, if we really like each other, it wouldn't be bad to take an innate expert as my disciple. Little Ping and Old Wang, who were at the side, laughed. Ting Shou blinked his eyes as if he didn't understand. Ting Qingshan's prediction was correct. The Murong clan wasn't the only clan that wanted to rope in Ting Qingshan by taking him as his teacher. The Wang clan and the Li clan had both used this method. Even some clans that were far away had either invited Ting Qingshan to be a consecrator or a teacher. Unfortunately, they were all frightened by Ting Qingshan's requirements. You want to be my disciple? The first requirement is to reach the innate realm. Not to mention that Ting Qingshan still had the 2nd and 3rd requirement. You want to know the 2nd and 3rd requirements? I'll tell you when you reach the innate realm. The few great clans hit a wall. Immediately, the great clans knew that this Mr. Ting was difficult to deal with. Simultaneously, news of Ting Qingshan's requirements for taking in disciples also spread, causing many people to exclaim in surprise. A super-powerful expert was indeed a super-powerful expert. Even the requirements for taking in disciples were so high. When a person's status was extremely high, even if his actions were overbearing, there would still be people who admired him. On the morning of the 28th day after Ting Qingshan obtained the stone inscription, in the underground abode of the godly Axe Mountain, Ting Qingshan sat cross-legged and meditated for an entire night. Then, he got up and started practicing his fist art. Every morning, Li Jun and the others would wake up to the whistling sound of Ting Qingshan's fist art. They all knew that when Ting Qingshan practiced his fist art, the sky just so happened to be bright. Ah! Li Jun stretched her body, opened the door curtain, and walked out. Little Ping, who was beside her, also walked out. Li Jun and Little Ping both widened their eyes. Uncle, he. Little Ping was dumbfounded. At this moment, Ting Qingshan, who was practicing the earth element fist, seemed to be wearing an earthy yellow battle armor. Even his head was completely covered, and only his eyes were faintly covered with a transparent barrier of light. With such an image, Ting Qingshan was like a god that had descended from the heavens. In the past, Ting Qingshan's body was covered with flashing earthy yellow rays of light. But now, it had formed a sealed battle armor. Big Brother Ting, has he reached the later stage of the Supreme Force? Li Jun was pleasantly surprised. Chapter 374. Today was the 3rd chapter. While practicing, Ting Qingshan could clearly feel the amazing changes that were happening to his body. Back in the Great Prairie, Ting Qingshan had already stepped into the middle stage of the Supreme Force. However, it took Ting Qingshan more than a year to advance from the middle stage to the late stage of the Supreme Force. It was only today that he made the breakthrough. With this breakthrough, Ting Qingshan could feel the amazing changes. The powerful Supreme Force was like iron wires, but also like tough silk. It ran through every part of Ting Qingshan's body and hid in every cell. Whether it was his muscles, tendons, bones, fascia, or internal organs, they were all filled with this magical power. Moreover, this power was transforming. It was becoming stronger and tougher. Clang, clang, Ting Qingshan could faintly hear the wonderful changes that were happening inside his body after the Supreme Force and the Spirit combined. This change made the Supreme Force even more mysterious. At the same time, it also caused the cells in Ting Qingshan's body to undergo earth-shaking changes. Originally, Ting Qingshan's 5 viscera and 6 bowels were much weaker than his muscles, tendons, and bones. However, at this moment, the wisps of lightning-like and silk-like Supreme Force were vibrating and transforming in his internal organs. These internal organs were also transforming rapidly, becoming tougher and stronger. Just like Ting Qingshan's heart, even without the protection of the Supreme Force, an ordinary person couldn't pierce it with a knife. From the inside to the outside, there was no weakness. This was the perfect body that could only be obtained by cultivating the internal martial arts to the peak. The Spirit and the Supreme Force actually complement each other. My Supreme Force has made a breakthrough, and my Spirit has also transformed. Ting Qingshan could clearly feel this change. For so long, Ting Qingshan couldn't use the Spirit to control the air so that it wouldn't become a resistance. However, when he reached the late stage of the Supreme Force, Ting Qingshan did it. The Spirit in the Mud Pill Palace continued to integrate with the Supreme Force. When the Supreme Force was saturated, the Spirit would integrate and return to the Mud Pill Palace. However, after entering the peak of the Supreme Force and coming out, the Spirit itself had changed. Only when the Spirit is strong can I reach the late stage of the Supreme Force. When the Spirit reaches the late stage of the Supreme Force, the Spirit can control the air and eliminate air resistance. These two things complement each other. Ting Qingshan was secretly amazed. No wonder. The Buddhist sect and the Taoist sect are different. Among them, the Buddhist sect attaches more importance to divinity. It stands to reason that after reaching the Arhat middle stage, the strength of divinity should be similar to that of a Taoist golden core innate expert. Even if the Spirit is required, the Qingshan, the Spirit of the Taoist sect, can control the air resistance. Taoists can only control air resistance after reaching the connate golden core. It's the same for my branch of internal martial arts. Only after reaching the late stage of the Supreme Force can one eliminate air resistance. Ting Qingshan's heart was filled with joy. When one reached the pinnacle of the internal martial arts Supreme Force, the inside and outside of one's body became one, perfect and complete. The Supreme Force was extremely strong. Sometimes it would lurk inside the body, and sometimes it would condense on the surface of the body. It could be said that physically, Ting Qingshan had reached his limit. Any further improvement would be an improvement in one's comprehension of Tao. When a golden core innate expert or a late Arhat expert reaches their limit, their body's explosive power is about 800,000 genes. As for Ting Qingshan, the combination of his body and the Supreme Force had reached the limit. His explosive power was around 1,600,000 gene. 2 times. My body has reached its limit. Even an emptiness realm expert's body is not as strong as mine. Ting Qingshan knew this very well. I can't improve my body any further. What I have to do now is to comprehend the Tao. The current Ting Qingshan could cause the air to explode with a single deep breath. Perfection both inside and outside was the limit of the body. Ting Qingshan withdrew his power and exhaled a breath of air. The breath of air shot a hole in the mountain wall. Big brother Ting, you broke through? Li Jun walked over with a happy expression. Teacher. Ting Qingshan's eyes were also filled with joy. After Ting Qingshan's teachings, Ting Shou knew that, after reaching the Grandmaster realm, internal martial arts could be divided into 3 levels: the first, middle, and last. In the first level, the entire body could be covered with light. In the second level, the supreme force could be condensed into rings. Haha, I broke through. Ting Qingshan nodded with a smile. Big brother Ting, this is great news. Today. I will cook more dishes today. Li Jun was also happy for Ting Qingshan. Little Ping, who was at the side, waved her arms and said, Sister Jun, let me help. Congratulations, boss. Old Wang said with a smile. Big brother Ting. Li Jun suddenly said softly. Ting Qingshan looked at her. Big brother Ting, didn't you say that you would subdue the 6-legged blade-like qi when you reach the later stage of the supreme force? Li Jun said as she pointed to a cave at the side. When Ting Qingshan heard this, his eyes brightened. He turned his head and looked. From where Ting Qingshan was, he could still see the 6-legged blade-like qi sleeping in the cave. The 6-legged blade-like qi could sleep very well. Ever since Ting Qingshan obtained the stone inscription, the 6-legged blade-like qi had only woken up twice. The 6-legged blade-like qi is very powerful. It can fly in the sky and escape underground. Its body's defense is also very strong. Ting Qingshan praised inwardly. Moreover, the blade-like art performed by the 6 blade-like legs is very exquisite. It is the most suitable sparring partner for me. In the future, it will be very useful if I bring it to the land of the 9 prefectures. After coming into contact with the Heavenly God Palace, Ting Qingshan knew in the land of the 9 prefectures, the 8 supreme sects seemed to be superior, but in reality, there were turbulent undercurrents. For example, the ambitious Heavenly God Palace. Of course, Ting Qingshan was not willing to be ordinary. Qing Hu Island. Your Qing Hu Island and my Guiyuan sect are in the same prefecture. How can the land of one prefecture contain 2 tigers? Ting Qingshan understood this very well. In the future, my branch of internal martial art will also flourish. How can the territory of Jiangning County be enough? Qing Hu Island has controlled Yangzhou for a long time. It's time to move. How could Ting Qingshan let go of Qingqing's death? How could he just let go of Qingqing's death? However, without sufficient strength, everything was just empty talk. Little June, all of you go outside. Little June, you talk to it after I finish fighting with it. Ting Qingshan said. Li Jun and the others nodded. Screech, screech, Li Jun even called out to Blue Luan, who was sleeping in the nest, to go out with them. As for the whole Gale Eagle, it was already outside. Soon Li Jun, the others, and Blue Luan left. Ting Qingshan picked up the reincarnation spear, which was leaning against the wall, and walked towards the nest of the 6-legged blade-like qi. Boom, boom, boom. Ting Qingshan purposely stomped on the ground with every step he took, causing the ground to shake and the stone surface to crack. It was as if a giant was striding forward. The 6-legged blade-like qi, which was sleeping, suddenly opened its eyes on its triangular head. Phew! At the same time, it straightened its body and lay on its 6 legs, ready to pounce at any time. It opened its mouth and emitted a deep and dissatisfied roar. The deep roar carried a unique fishy smell. 6-legged blade-like qi, how about we fight? Ting Qingshan raised his reincarnation spear and pointed it at the 6-legged blade-like qi. The 6-legged blade-like qi immediately roared angrily. It was obvious that in the 6-legged blade-like qi's opinion, a fight between the two was meaningless. Humph, are you afraid? Ting Qingshan revealed a disdainful expression. As expected, the arrogant 6-legged blade-like qi was angered by Ting Qingshan's attitude. It darted to the side at lightning speed, and simultaneously, Its two blade-like front legs easily pushed open a path on the mountain wall, as if they were pushing open a bush. Its huge body darted out at lightning speed. Ting Qingshan and the six-legged blade-like Qi had fought several times. If they were in a narrow space, Ting Qingshan would definitely be at an advantage. Therefore, the six-legged blade-like Qi had learned its lesson. You, a human, want to fight with me? Fine, let's go outside. It was spacious outside, so the six-legged blade-like Qi would be at an advantage. It could easily trample on Ting Qingshan. Humph, Ting Qingshan grinned. Holding the reincarnation spear in his hand, he transformed into a bolt of lightning and darted into the path. After the huge figure of the six-legged blade-like Qi darted out from the mountain wall, a human figure that was much smaller than the six-legged blade-like Qi also darted out at lightning speed. Phew! Ting Qingshan stood on the branch of a tree while the six-legged blade-like Qi floated in the middle of the mountain forest. On the six-legged blade-like Qi's triangular head, the tiny black pupils were faintly flickering with a cold glint. In the past, I was at a disadvantage. But this time... Suddenly, Ting Qingshan's entire body was covered with a layer of earthy yellow color. Even his head was covered. Only his eyes were exposed. It was as if he had put on a suit of battle armor. The six-legged blade-like Qi couldn't help but be shocked. Its two pairs of wings flapped slightly and rose a little higher. It could also tell that the human before it seemed to have become stronger. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Qi suddenly roared deeply. Its two pairs of wings flapped simultaneously. In an instant, the six-legged blade-like Qi transformed into a beam of golden light. Its two pairs of wings, which were as thin as a cicada's wings, were extremely sharp and tough. When the six-legged blade-like Qi flew through the mountain forest, the trees that were brushed by its wings, it was as if the trees had been brushed by a sharp and huge blade. Rumble, dozens of thick and sturdy trees fell with a loud bang. However, the cross-sections of the trees were neat and smooth. Ha ha! Ting Qingshan laughed loudly and leaped into the air. He grabbed the shaft of the reincarnation spear with both of his hands and raised it high as if he was holding an axe. At the instant when he was about to exchange blows with the six-legged blade-like Qi, Ting Qingshan suddenly swung the reincarnation spear. His left and right hands, one in front and one behind, grabbed the shaft of the spear and fiercely swung it forward. The entire shaft of the spear was covered with an earthy yellow glow. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Qi roared and swung its two huge sickle-like blade-like legs towards Ting Qingshan. The reincarnation spear also swung over. At the instant when the two attacks collided, Ting Qingshan's left and right arms simultaneously exerted force. Bang! The powerful force radiated in all directions and the trees collapsed. Both Ting Qingshan and the six-legged blade-like Qi flew backwards. A strong and strange force caused the six-legged blade-like Qi's two blade-like legs to bend. Simultaneously, the force was transmitted to its body, causing the six-legged blade-like Qi to crash into over 10 thick and sturdy trees before it stopped. On its triangular head, a trace of green liquid seeped out from the corner of its mouth. The tiny black pupils of its huge eyes were filled with astonishment. Ting Qingshan flew backwards as well. With a flip of his body, he landed on the branch of a large tree. Chapter 375. Today was the 4th chapter. Ting Qingshan had been studying for a long time. He discovered that, because the shaft of the reincarnation spear did not have a sharp edge, the power of the spear shaft was not great. The power of the spear shaft was very different from that of the spear piercing with the spear shaft. Before Ting Qingshan obtained the 9th move, he had a vague idea, but he could not figure it out. However, after obtaining the stone inscription and comprehending the 9th move, Ting Qingshan's confusion quickly disappeared. The spear tip was powerful. The strength was condensed into a single point, and its penetrative power was the strongest. What about the spear shaft? The spear shaft had its own advantages. Although it could not condense the strength into a single point, the flexibility of the spear shaft allowed Ting Qingshan to display the strength of hitting a bull through a mountain. The spear tip could not display this strength, but the spear shaft was very suitable. After Ting Qingshan's experiments, he finally created the fifth move, Splitting Mountain. Like I said, the heavens are fair. The six-legged blade-like chi has a strong defense, 2 pairs of wings, and 6 blade-like legs. As I expected, its internal organs are not very strong. However, the vibrating force was able to injure it. At this moment, Ting Qingshan was even more confident in defeating the six-legged blade-like chi roar. With a furious roar, the six-legged blade-like chi rapidly flew above Ting Qingshan and attacked Ting Qingshan with its 6 long legs. Under the attack of the 6 blade-like legs, the upper part of the tree that Ting Qingshan was standing on was cut into pieces. Some of the pieces were cut into pieces by the 6-legged blade-like chi's wings. The 6 long legs attacked Ting Qingshan from all directions. It is indeed smart. It found the weakness of this move so quickly. Ting Qingshan smiled. The move Splitting Mountain had a weakness. When Ting Qingshan first created the toxic dragon drill, he would lose control for a moment every time he used it. Of course, the current toxic dragon drill was already flawless. However, the move Splitting Mountain required time to accumulate power. Once one was engaged in battle, there was simply no time to accumulate power to unleash this move. Secondly, the 6-legged blade-like chi could use its 6 blade-like legs to attack from all directions. If Ting Qingshan struck with his reincarnation spear, he would only be able to strike one of the blade-like legs. The other 5 would be able to severely injure Ting Qingshan in an instant. This was his weakness. Haha, 6-legged blade-like chi, you will definitely lose today. Ting Qingshan leaped down towards the ground. However, the 6-legged blade-like chi swooped down and attacked Ting Qingshan with its 6 blade-like legs. Ting Qingshan turned his right hand and the reincarnation spear turned, transforming into the transmutation unity law. Clang, 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 a series of clashing sounds rang out, causing the surrounding earth to tremble, the trees to turn into powder, and a cloud of dust filled the air. Amidst the pervading dust, Ting Qingshan, who seemed to be wearing battle armor, dodged swiftly. The 6-legged blade-like chi's 6 long legs slammed down with a loud bang, causing the earth to shake and the mountain to crack. A great amount of crushed stones flew in all directions like hidden weapons. Many crushed stones smashed onto Ting Qingshan's body. The Supreme Force battle armor on the surface of Ting Qingshan's body vibrated slightly, easily dissipating the impact. In the past, I always felt that the 6-legged blade-like chi was very strong. Now, it seems that it is on par with my current strength. After a short fight, Ting Qingshan finally confirmed the 6-legged blade-like chi's strength. The 6-legged blade-like chi's explosive strength was about 1,600,000 jin. If the 6-legged blade-like chi relied on the vibration of its 2 pairs of wings and the force of its dive, its attack power would be even higher. The 6-legged blade-like chi has wings above its body. If I execute the move Splitting Mountain from above, it will be blocked by the wings. If I hit the blade-like legs, the blade-like legs will be able to transmit the vibration and injure the 6-legged blade-like chi. However, because of the blade-like legs, I can only injure the 6-legged blade-like chi lightly. Ting Qingshan understood that in order for the move Splitting Mountain to be effective, it would have to be struck directly on the 6-legged blade-like chi's body without the obstruction of the wings. Screech, a resounding and excited cry sounded. The blue Luan hovered high in the sky, its wings vibrating slightly. Dressed in a white leather coat, Li Jun stood on the back of the blue Luan like a fairy, watching the battle between Ting Qingshan and the 6-legged blade-like chi from afar. At this moment, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Smoke and dust filled the air, and trees collapsed one after another. Ting Qingshan stepped on the mountain wall and flew upwards. After taking a few steps, he suddenly stomped. Rumble, a huge pit appeared on the mountain wall, and Ting Qingshan darted towards the six-legged blade-like Qi like an arrow that was released from a bow. The six-legged blade-like Qi roared, and its six blade-like legs surrounded Ting Qingshan again. Clang! Ting Qingshan shook off one of its long legs, and the sharp spikes on its long legs streaked across Ting Qingshan's body. However, Ting Qingshan stepped on its long legs and leaped again, dashing towards the six-legged blade-like Qi's abdomen. Once Ting Qingshan got close to the six-legged blade-like Qi, Ting Qingshan would win. Buzz, the two pairs of wings shook, and the six-legged blade-like Qi rapidly rose into the sky. At the same time, its six long legs either retracted or slashed forward at lightning speed, forming an inescapable net. After a series of attacks, Ting Qingshan was still sent flying. Ting Qingshan's right leg pierced into the mountain wall, and his entire body was fixed on the nearly straight mountain wall. He stared at the six-legged blade-like Qi, which was hovering in midair. With 6 legs, it will be difficult to get close to it. Ting Qingshan felt a headache coming on. The six-legged blade-like Qi hovered in midair. It had also realized how terrifying this human was. Up until now, the six-legged blade-like Qi had yet to injure Ting Qingshan, but it had already suffered light injuries. Now, in terms of strength, Ting Qingshan was not weaker than it. In terms of attacking techniques, Ting Qingshan was equally powerful. The six-legged blade-like Qi was also pondering how to defeat the human in front of it. Both the human and the demonic beast felt that the other party was difficult to deal with. In midair, Li Jun, who was standing on the blue Luan's back, held her breath as she watched. It seems that I have to use my most powerful move. Ting Qingshan understood that it would be a waste of time to continue fighting. Therefore, he immediately used his most powerful move. Ting Qingshan stretched out his left hand. Chi-chi, threads of supreme force twisted and gathered in Ting Qingshan's palm. They then condensed into a ball and hid inside Ting Qingshan's body. Now that I have reached the later stage of the supreme force, I can use this move. Ting Qingshan stepped on the mountain wall and suddenly leaped up over Tenzhang. Then, he suddenly stomped on the ground. He broke the mountain wall and dashed towards the six-legged blade-like Qi, which was at the same height as him. Roar! The six-legged blade-like Qi's eyes were slightly red. Its pride as a demonic beast didn't allow it to retreat. Instead, it flapped its 2 pairs of wings, and with the help of the strong momentum, its 6 enormous sickle-like legs slashed towards Ting Qingshan. Even the air was filled with blades of Qi. Ting Qingshan's eyes were as sharp as knives. He spun the reincarnation spear in his hand, and a stream of earthy yellow flowing light rapidly gathered at the tip of the reincarnation spear. With the force of the rotation, the flowing light actually rotated and compressed. When it reached the tip of the spear, it transformed into an earthy yellow speck of light. No one would doubt the power of the internal supreme force compressed into a speck of light. Ha! As the supreme force rotated, Ting Qingshan grabbed the spear shaft with both of his arms and shook it fiercely. The shaft of the reincarnation spear began to rotate. The powerful and terrifying force and the light speck of the supreme force converged at one spot. Chi-chi, at the tip of the spear, the light speck of the supreme force combined with the powerful penetrating power, producing a terrifying force that distorted the space. The 6-legged blade-like Qi seemed to feel threatened, and its 6 long legs blocked simultaneously. Boom! The space suddenly exploded. It was as if the heavenly thunder roared beside one's ears. The most powerful technique of the 5 elemental spear of Xing-Yi martial arts. Vermilion Tiger Roar. The powerful and terrifying explosive force instantly blasted the 6 long legs away. A silvery shooting star flashed past, and the tip of the reincarnation spear pierced the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like chi without the protection of its wings. The layer of scales alone couldn't block the tip of the reincarnation spear at all. A chi sound was heard. The reincarnation spear pierced its abdomen. Below the scales was the layer of flesh, and its defense was 10 to 100 times weaker. When the tip of the reincarnation spear pierced halfway in, Ting Qingshan immediately pulled it out. Swoosh! Ting Qingshan stepped on the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like chi, and with a forceful push, his entire body dived downwards. Green blood spurted out from the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like chi as Ting Qingshan landed on the ground. The muscles on the abdomen of the six-legged blade-like chi wriggled, and the blood quickly stopped flowing. You lost! Ting Qingshan stood on the ground. The six-legged blade-like chi also landed on the ground, and the huge eyes on its triangular head stared fixedly at Ting Qingshan. It knew that if Ting Qingshan hadn't been merciful, it would have been dead. If Ting Qingshan's reincarnation spear had pierced a little deeper, and at the same time, he had channeled his internal supreme force into the blade-like chi and caused it to explode, he would have been able to kill it. Roar! The six-legged blade-like chi roared deeply. The move of the vermilion tiger roar is just as I expected. Ting Qingshan was overjoyed. Before he had cultivated the internal supreme force, Ting Qingshan's strongest move was the vermilion tiger roar, not the toxic dragon drill. In the past, under the city wall of Yanjiang City, the two armies confronted each other. With the vermilion tiger roar, Ting Qingshan killed an emptiness Dan innate expert and turned him into ashes. The move of the vermilion tiger roar was a combination of the innate true origin and physical strength. On the Great Prairie, the internal supreme force had reached the middle stage. Because the internal supreme force and the innate true origin could not coexist, the move of the vermilion tiger roar was a combination of physical strength and innate true origin. Its explosive power was about 1 million jin. As for the toxic dragon drill, it was a combination of physical strength and supreme force. Its power was even stronger. The internal supreme force was very special. It could only be condensed into battle armor when it reached the late stage. In the early stage, it would only be streaks of flowing light, and in the middle stage, it would only be condensed into a ring. The requirements for the move of the vermilion tiger roar were very strict. The energy had to be condensed at the spearhead, and then it would rotate and overlap into a point. This kind of control was even better than condensing battle armor. It was impossible to achieve this level when one was at the early and middle stage of the supreme force. When one reached the late stage, the supreme force would transform and could easily condense into battle armor. It was easier to control than using the innate true origin. Of course, this was the only move that could be used. The explosive power of the supreme force was 800,000 jin. When the supreme force within the body fused with the body, Ting Qingshan's arms could once again explode with a strength of 160,000 jin. In other words, the move of the vermilion tiger roar could explode with a strength of 260,000 jin. It completely surpassed the power of the toxic dragon drill. However, this move consumes too much of the supreme force. Ting Qingshan sighed to himself. The power of this move was great, but the consumption was also shocking. In his previous life, Ting Qingshan's strongest fist art was the tiger cannon fist. And now, the spear art with the strongest penetrating power was the vermilion tiger roar. Of course, the move, Splitting Mountain, was also very powerful. It could be used against humans or demonic beasts with strong defenses and weak internal organs. It could even be used to defeat a person or demonic beast with one strike. As for the toxic dragon drill, it consumed very little of the internal supreme force and could be used for a longer period of time. The pursuing shadow was continuous and unending, and the transmutation unity law was the strongest defense. Each of the 5 moves of Ting Qingshan's spear art had its own advantages and disadvantages. Fortunately, I have this move. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to defeat the six-legged blade-like Qi. Ting Qingshan smiled. Big brother Ting. Li Jun's voice rang. The blue wand swooped down from the sky and landed on the ground. Li Jun leaped down from the back of the blue wand and ran over excitedly. Big brother Ting, you won. Little Jun, help me ask it if it is willing to follow me. Ting Qingshan said. Ting Qingshan had failed to subdue the six-legged blade-like Qi before, but now, he was stronger than it. With Li Jun's help, there should be hope. Roar, roar, roar. Li Jun stared at the six-legged blade-like Qi. The six-legged blade-like Qi hesitated for a moment and stared at Ting Qingshan, emitting a deep roar. Li Jun frowned and immediately roared again. Just like that, they conversed for a while. Big brother Ting. Li Jun stared at Ting Qingshan. What's wrong? Ting Qingshan couldn't sense anything wrong. Li Jun said helplessly, this six-legged blade-like Qi is really stubborn. No matter what I say, it won't agree. It is very arrogant. The blade-like art it uses with its 6 legs is somewhat similar to the metal elemental Dao. I have already created the first move of the metal elemental fist. If it watches it often, it will comprehend the Dao and become an emptiness realm demonic beast. Ting Qingshan said. The blue Luan had followed Ting Qingshan because of this. I said it. Li Jun shook her head and said, I also said that Big Brother Ting, you have improved so much that you will reach the emptiness realm in the future. It will be beneficial to let it follow us. However, the 6-legged blade-like Qi refused to yield. Ting Qingshan stared at the 6-legged blade-like Qi. The 6-legged blade-like Qi also stared at Ting Qingshan. The man and the demonic beast stared at each other. Ting Qingshan could faintly see a hint of ridicule in the 6-legged blade-like Qi's eyes. He smiled and said, Little Jun, ask it again. I don't think it is that stubborn and stupid. Li Jun nodded and turned her head to ask. Hearing the 6-legged blade-like Qi's answer, Li Jun revealed a surprised expression. What did it say? Ting Qingshan asked. Big Brother Ting, it asked you. What was the move that defeated it just now? Your strength is on par with it. How did you suddenly become so strong? Li Jun asked. It was obvious that the 6-legged blade-like Qi was still unwilling to accept defeat after being defeated by Ting Qingshan. It was obvious that the two of them were on par. How did it lose? Ting Qingshan smiled and said, Tell it that this is the spear art that I created. After Li Jun relayed the message, the 6-legged blade-like Qi pondered for a moment. Roar, roar, the 6-legged blade-like Qi emitted a deep roar. It said that you are not much stronger than it. It can easily escape with a flap of its wings. It will not submit to you. Li Jun explained. Ting Qingshan frowned. The 6-legged blade-like Qi continued to roar. Li Jun continued to explain. It said that although it will not submit to you, your strength has indeed improved greatly. The first time, you and another human were no match for it. The second time, you were able to defend against its attack. The third time, you defeated it. Moreover, you pierced its scales but didn't kill it. Therefore, the 6-legged blade-like Qi promised to follow you for 10 years as repayment for the mercy you showed earlier. Within 10 years, if you can help it increase its strength, it will continue to follow you. If it doesn't, it will leave. If you agree, it will stay. Otherwise, it will leave. With this, Li Jun looked at Ting Qingshan. It really won't release the eagle until it sees the rabbit. Ting Qingshan smiled and said, Tell it that I will let it follow me. Li Jun looked over with a smile and explained. Roar, the 6-legged blade-like Qi roared as well. Big Brother Ting, it said that it also hopes that you can help it become an emptiness realm godly beast. Li Jun said with a smile. From then on, the 6-legged blade-like Qi became the third demonic beast by Ting Qingshan's side. Chapter 376. The goose feather-like snowflakes fluttered between the heavens and the earth. The crescent moon lake of the godly Axe Mountain was similarly covered with a thick layer of snow. It was already afternoon. In the forest ahead, Ting Shou was continuously practicing his fist technique. The coachman, Old Wang, was also practicing his sword technique nearby. Ting Qingshan, who was usually the most hard-working, was now standing quietly under the eaves, looking at the endless snow. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed. Ever since he had captured Dongzhi and obtained that stone inscription, Ting Qingshan had been cultivating wholeheartedly. Ting Qingshan became even crazier after he reached the later stage of the Supreme Force and his body was perfected inside and outside. Ting Qingshan had subdued the six-legged blade-like Qi every time he comprehended something. He would go and spar with the six-legged blade-like Qi in the entire godly Axe Mountain range. Many trees that had been growing for hundreds and thousands of years had suffered because of this. Today could be said to be the only day that Ting Qingshan could rest after obtaining the stone inscription. Emperor Yu's 36 splitting mountain forms started with the earth elemental Dao and gradually mixed the metal elemental Dao. I obtained the 9th form from the Hall of Assassins. This 9th form uses the metal elemental Dao as the main technique and the earth elemental Dao as a supplement. After cultivating for several months, I have completely comprehended it. It's a pity that there's only one piece. Ting Qingshan was somewhat dissatisfied. This stone inscription had indeed allowed Ting Qingshan to improve at a much faster rate. In just a few months, Ting Qingshan had created the first, second, and third forms of his metal element fist. However, Ting Qingshan's mastery of the earth elemental fist was already extremely high. He had already reached the 7th stage. The 9th stone inscription of the 36 splitting mountain forms didn't contain a very profound earth elemental Dao. It only slightly improved Ting Qingshan's earth element fist. It's a pity that I only have this one piece. If all 36 pieces were here, I would be able to kill all of them. Stepping into the emptiness realm within 1 or 2 years is definitely not a dream. Ting Qingshan thought to himself. 20. I'm already 20. 19 years of age was spent in front of the celestial jade annulus on the bright moon island. 20 years of age was spent in front of the godly Axe Mountain's stone inscription. Ting Qingshan had never relaxed on himself. Father, mother, I have been away from you for more than 2 years. Ting Qingshan still missed his kind parents the most. His father, Ting Yongfan, had been captured by the men of Qinghu Island. He had narrowly escaped death, but both of his legs were broken. I wonder how father is doing these 2 years. 20 years old. How are my parents in the distance? The distance between Duanmu continent and the continent of the 9 prefectures was too far. The distance between the 2 continents was tens of thousands of li. Even an innate expert would find it extremely difficult to cross the sea. If they were not careful, they would fall into some dangerous regions of the sea. Although I had publicly declared that I had betrayed the sect, would Qinghu Island, which had suffered such a great loss, be willing to do so? I've been away from the 9 states for more than a year. I wonder how my sect is doing. Also, the Heavenly God Palace is full of ambition. Perhaps a storm has already started in the land of the 9 prefectures. Ting Qingshan was very worried. Previously, he had seen a godly eagle attack Xiao Yao Palace with thunderbolt. Xiao Yao Palace was one of the 8 supreme sects, but it was still attacked by an emptiness realm divine beast. This was a hint that the undercurrent in the land of the 9 prefectures was turbulent. Once it erupts, the land of the 9 prefectures will be in chaos. Will the Guiyuan sect be able to withstand it? Ting Qingshan was burning with anxiety. Just by observing some movements in the land of the 9 prefectures, Ting Qingshan could infer many signs of danger. The Guiyuan sect, which had a weak foundation, could indeed be destroyed in the face of the 8 supreme sects and the Heavenly God Palace. If the Guiyuan sect was destroyed, then Ting Qingshan's parents and the Tingjia village would also be in great danger. I hope the land of the 9 prefectures will continue to be peaceful. At least, it will last until I return. Ting Qingshan's heart was filled with hope. Because he was far away from the land of the 9 prefectures, there was no news of the land of the 9 prefectures. Therefore, Ting Qingshan was very worried. The unknown was the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was, when he returned, he would discover that the Guiyuan sect and the Tingjia village had all been destroyed. Time. Ting Qingshan furrowed his brows and thought to himself, if I cultivate slowly, it will probably take a few years, maybe even 10 years, to reach the emptiness realm. This speed is fast. Many experts can only reach the emptiness realm when they are over 100 years old. Reaching the emptiness realm before the age of 30 is fast. However, this is not enough. He didn't have time to waste. He didn't have time to squander. I have to rely on the stone inscriptions. One stone inscription is enough to save me a lot of time. Comprehending the heavens and the earth and the Tao was, of course, very difficult. However, he could use the achievements of the predecessors as a reference and integrate them into his own. This way, his foundation would be stable, but his speed would be much faster. Big Brother Ting? A voice came from the side. Ting Qingshan turned his head and saw Li Jun, who was wearing a white cotton-padded jacket, walking over with a smile. Big Brother Ting, what are you thinking about? I'm homesick. Ting Qingshan sighed softly. Homesick? Li Jun froze slightly. When Ting Qingshan saw Li Jun's expression, he immediately woke up from his thoughts. He knew that Li Jun had lost her home long ago. His words just now must have made Li Jun feel terrible. Ting Qingshan looked outside and suddenly locked his eyes on the statue-like figure in the distance. He changed the topic and said, Little Jun, look. That kid is still here. Big Brother Ting, that person has been kneeling on the ground for 2 days and 2 nights. Li Jun stared at the figure and said, Big Brother Ting, aren't you going to say a few words to him? Back then, Ting Qingshan had barged into the Dong residence and captured Dong Zhizi. This had been witnessed by a large number of Dong clan's henchmen and servants. No one knew where the news that the person who captured Dong Zhizi was Ting Qingshan had leaked, but it had quickly spread. In addition, many great clans had come to the Godly Axe Mountain to rope in Ting Qingshan. Therefore, Ting Qingshan's reputation had become even greater. Many people had never seen Ting Qingshan before, but they already knew of Ting Qingshan's existence. Some well-informed warriors knew that Ting Qingshan lived in the Godly Axe Mountain, so they came to be apprenticed to him. In this chaotic era, it would be very easy to be apprenticed to an extremely powerful expert and learn his skills. In the future, it would be very easy to obtain glory, splendor, and wealth. There are many people who want to be my apprentice. Do you think I will accept them if they kneel for a few days and nights? Ting Qingshan smiled and said, For warriors who possess inner strength, kneeling for 2 to 3 days is nothing. Old Wang! Ting Qingshan shouted. Boss! Old Wang, who had been practicing his sword in the snow, hastily ran over. Over the past few months, Old Wang had received Ting Qingshan's guidance and slept in the underground cave. Thus, his strength had improved extremely quickly. Tell that kid that I don't accept disciples. It's useless even if he kneels to death. Ting Qingshan ordered. Yes, boss. Old Wang hastily ran over to the statue-like man who was completely covered by snow. The statue-like man raised his head and argued with Old Wang. Seeing this, Ting Qingshan shook his head inwardly. Over the past few months, Ting Qingshan had seen too many methods of apprenticing. There were those who knelt for a long time, those who deliberately put on airs to attract Ting Qingshan, and those who used honey trap. Unfortunately, Ting Qingshan was stubborn and did not accept any disciple. If I lived in Duanmu continent for several decades, I might accept more disciples. However, I will eventually return to the land of the 9 prefectures. To Duanmu continent, I am just a passerby. Ting Qingshan turned around and entered the house. Old Wang couldn't persuade him, so he could only shake his head and leave. In the evening, the warrior who knelt until his entire body was ice-cold finally couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up with difficulty and cast a glance at the 3 stone houses. The silver spear martial saint Ting Qingshan is really as the legend says. It's really difficult to accept him as a disciple. 3 requirements for accepting disciples? The first requirement is to reach the innate realm? Which innate martial saint isn't high and mighty? Who would be willing to become a disciple? From what I see, if you accept disciples like this, your lineage will end. The warrior felt hatred in his heart as he turned around and left. At this moment, a young man wearing a black leather coat and carrying a huge war saber walked over from the front. "Brother, are you also here to be an apprentice?" The martial artist glanced at the person who came and said, "I advise you to forget about it. This silver spear martial saint, Ting Qingshan, is an impenetrable person. No matter what method you use, he is extremely hard-hearted." The young man cast a glance at him, smiled, and continued walking towards Ting Qingshan's residence. Forget it if you don't believe me. You will know after you suffer." The warrior sneered and watched as the young man walked to Ting Qingshan's residence. The warrior was waiting to watch a good show. As expected, Ting Qingshan walked out of the house. "I guess he is going to be scolded." The warrior stared at him. Suddenly, his expression froze. The young man carrying the war saber was warmly welcomed by Ting Qingshan. "What?" The warrior widened his eyes. Inside the house. "Brother Mu, please sit." Ting Qingshan smiled and sat down. At the same time, he poured tea for the newcomer. The newcomer was the great elder of the Rising Sun Trading Company, Mu Wang. The great elder smiled and sat down. "Brother Ting, it seems that many people want to be your apprentice. Sigh, I regret it now. If I knew there would be so many troubles, I wouldn't have barged in when I captured Dongzhi." Ting Qingshan shook his head and said helplessly. The great elder laughed and said, "Who can you blame? You barged in openly and caused such a big commotion. Once the news spreads, people will definitely ask who the mysterious expert is. There are only so many martial saints in the world. Which one of them isn't famous?" The great elder smiled and said, "Many clans know of you. Of course, this news can't be hidden." Ting Qingshan shook his head helplessly. "Many people think of ways to become famous to shake the world. You, on the other hand, only found out about you after you reached the peak of the Golden Dan innate realm." The great elder sighed. "You really hid yourself well." Ting Qingshan smiled inwardly. Hid. His fame was very great in the land of the 9 prefectures. It wasn't that he hid himself, but that he had just arrived at Duanmu continent. "Ha ha!" Ting Qingshan took a sip of the steaming hot tea and asked curiously, "Old Brother Mu, as far as I know, you have already returned to the Westtang region, right? Are you passing by here because it's on the way, or is there something else?" "I really have something important to do." The great elder smiled and said. Ting Qingshan's eyes brightened. "Tell me about it." The great elder chuckled and said, "Didn't you think of ways to obtain the stone inscriptions of the 36 splitting mountain forms? You went to capture Dongzhi just for 1 stone inscription." Ting Qingshan's eyes brightened. Of course, he desired the stone inscriptions very much. He hastily asked, "Why? Did the Hall of Assassins have another mission?" "No." The great elder smiled and shook his head. "There are only so many stone inscriptions in the world. Everyone hides them for fear that outsiders will find out. There are also very few who are willing to take them out to issue missions. It's already good enough to receive 1 mission in a year." "Then why did you come?" Ting Qingshan was puzzled. The great elder grinned. "I won't hide it from you. The Rising Sun Trading Company's influence is spread throughout the world. As for the stone inscriptions, the headquarters of the trading company has collected some. There are a total of 6. Chapter 377. 6 Yuan. Ting Qingshan's heart trembled. This was practically a timely help. Ting Qingshan had been anxiously wanting to obtain more stone inscriptions. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the Rising Sun Trading Company's great elder said that they had 6 stone inscriptions. Ting Qingshan knew very well that the stone inscriptions were personally made by Emperor Yu. Every stone inscription was incomparably precious. The Rising Sun Trading Company would definitely not lend it to others easily. Otherwise, why hadn't the Rising Sun Trading Company mentioned that they possessed the stone inscriptions during this half a year? What? Brother Ting Qingshan, you don't believe me? Seeing that Ting Qingshan didn't speak, the great elder asked in surprise. Yes, of course I do. Ting Qingshan smiled and said, Your Rising Sun Trading Company has a long history of over 3,000 years. Moreover, your influence is spread all over the world. You are the strongest trading company in the world. Even the Jiang clan has a stone inscription, and there are a total of 36 of them in the world. It would be strange if your trading firm didn't have one. It's not strange that there are 6 stone inscriptions. The first elder smiled. But I was thinking. Ting Qingshan smiled and looked at the great elder. These 6 stone inscriptions are extremely precious. Brother Mu, since you mentioned these 6 stone inscriptions, you must have something very difficult to do. Let me do it. It's a little difficult. The great elder nodded. What do you want me to do for you to lend me those 6 stone inscriptions? Ting Qingshan said. Having left the 9 prefectures for too long, Ting Qingshan had always been concerned about his faraway hometown. Now, he knew that the Rising Sun Trading Company had 6 stone inscriptions. Ting Qingshan had to obtain these 6 stone inscriptions no matter what. Good, straightforward enough. The great elder laughed. It's my teacher. He wants you to do something for him. Teacher, the dreamy cloud martial immortal. Ting Qingshan was shocked. He frowned and said, Brother Mu, your teacher is a war god ranker. He can't do anything. You want me to take action? Previously, Ting Qingshan was still confident. Now, however, he was slightly apprehensive. The martial immortal realm was an emptiness realm expert. An emptiness realm expert asked him to do something for him? Don't worry. The great elder said with a smile. Although my teacher is a war god, he is unable to fly. The last time I sparred with you after we returned, Teacher Xiang has mentioned about your bird-type demonic beast. This time, teacher has something on, so he asked me to invite you to bring that bird-type demonic beast along. Bird-type demonic beasts? Ting Qingshan said in surprise. Your Rising Sun Trading Company doesn't have any demonic beasts that know how to fly. In this world, only the Tianfeng clan understands the language of beasts. The great elder shook his head and said, Moreover, there are very few bird-type demonic beasts, let alone taming them. The dreamy cloud martial immortal wants me to bring bird-type demonic beasts over. Is there a requirement for the bird-type demonic beast strength? Ting Qingshan asked. Not really. The great elder smiled and said, What the teacher values is the flying ability of the bird-type demonic beasts. As for strength, Golden Dan innate demonic beasts are useless to teacher. Ting Qingshan nodded. He made up his mind and set off with the whole Gale Eagle. As for the Blue Luan, it would remain here. I still don't know what the dreamy cloud martial immortal wants me to do. Ting Qingshan asked. I'm not sure either. The great elder shook his head and said, I only know that we are going to the dreamy cloud swampland to search for something. Dreamy cloud swampland? Ting Qingshan was moved. The 3 most dangerous places in Duanmu continent were the dreamy cloud swampland in the West Tang region, the blazing flame ridge in the eastern flower region, and the Tianfeng Canyon in the northern frosty region. The dreamy cloud swampland was ranked first. That's right. The dreamy cloud swampland extends for 3,000 li. It is extremely vast. Even an emptiness realm expert would find it extremely difficult to search for a certain treasure. If there are bird-type demonic beasts, it would be much easier to look down from the sky. Ting Qingshan somewhat understood why the dreamy cloud martial immortal asked him to go. However, was it really just to search for something? The treasure that the dreamy cloud martial immortal wanted to search for might not be ordinary. However, no matter what, for the sake of the 6 stone inscriptions, Ting Qingshan had to make this trip. Old brother Mu, it is already late. How about we set off tomorrow morning? Ting Qingshan said. Yes, okay. Mu Wang nodded. During dinner that night, Ting Qingshan told Li Jun that he was going to the West Tang region. The next morning, under the gazes of Li Jun and the others, Ting Qingshan and the great elder Mu Wang rode the whole gale eagle and flew northwest. At noon, the sun shone on the boundless snow. The whole gale eagle spread its wings and soared. The back of the whole gale eagle was much wider than the back of the blue luan. On the back of the whole gale eagle, Ting Qingshan and the great elder could sit cross-legged. If it was on the back of the blue luan, only one person could sit. The whole gale eagle was swift and fierce. As it flew, the houses of the villages below were like ants. Look, the dreamy cloud ancient city is in front. The great elder pointed into the distance. Oh, is this the dreamy cloud ancient city? Ting Qingshan's eyes lit up as he looked at the ancient city from afar. The entire city was greenish-black in color, and there were a large number of guards on the city walls. Dreamy Cloud Ancient City was an ancient city with a history of more than 3,000 years. Since its establishment, it had been the headquarters of the Rising Sun Trading Company. That should be the Dreamy Cloud Lake. Ting Qingshan's gaze passed over the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City and looked at the vast and boundless world to the west of the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City. Under the illumination of the sun, there were faint ripples. It was a large swamp, the Dreamy Cloud Swamp, the most dangerous place in Duanmu continent. Yes, the 3,000-li Dreamy Cloud Swampland. The great elder looked at the Dreamy Cloud Swampland from afar and exclaimed, "After so many years, I have never seen the Dreamy Cloud Swampland from such a high place." The whole gale eagle flew at an altitude of several thousand zhang. Looking at the Dreamy Cloud Swampland from such a high altitude, the scenery was indeed beautiful. Countless years have passed, but the Dreamy Cloud Swampland is still a world of beasts and monsters. The Dreamy Cloud Swampland was filled with dangers. The most dangerous thing was, the terrain of the Dreamy Cloud Swampland was constantly changing. Even if it was at the expense of human lives, it would no longer be safe after a year or so. After a year or so, it will no longer be safe. The great elder sighed. Hearing this, Ting Qingshan only smiled. Compared to the desolate of the 9 prefectures, the 3,000-li Dreamy Cloud Swampland was probably much larger. Let the whole gale eagle descend, the great elder hastily said. Through Ting Qingshan's introduction, he knew that this bird-type demonic beast was called the whole gale eagle. Little Gray. Ting Qingshan patted the feathers on the neck of the whole gale eagle. The whole gale eagle immediately let out a high-pitched cry and dived down. Outside the eastern gate of the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City, Ting Qingshan and the great elder Mu Wang walked side by side towards the gate of the city. The whole gale eagle followed behind them. Great elder. A convoy of carriages was waiting 1 li away from the city gate. Brother Ting, let's get on the carriage. Mu Wang smiled and said, let the whole gale eagle get on as well. If a demonic beast is in the city, then... Ting Qingshan patted the whole gale eagle's feathers with a smile and pointed at the carriage. Although the whole gale eagle was unable to communicate verbally, it possessed human intelligence and could easily understand Ting Qingshan's meaning. The 2 humans and the bird-type demonic beast entered the carriage in succession. Let's go. The great elder ordered. The convoy then advanced towards the city gate. When they arrived at the city gate, Ting Qingshan glanced through the window and noticed that anyone entering or exiting the city had to show a special number plate. Old Brother Mu, the guards at the gate of the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City are quite strict. The Dreamy Cloud Ancient City belongs to the Rising Sun Trading Company. Outsiders are not allowed to enter without permission, Mu Wang said with a smile. As far as I know, the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City is also one of the 36 major cities. Your trading company is indeed powerful to be able to monopolize this major city and not allow others to enter. Ting Qingshan exclaimed in admiration. The great elder Mu Wang smiled and said, "The Dreamy Cloud Ancient City was built by our trading company. For over 3,000 years, it has always belonged to our trading company." A trading company monopolized a city for over 3,000 years. It was simply unbelievable. After the convoy entered the city, they advanced rapidly along the street. Not long after, they arrived at the entrance of a luxurious palace. The Dreamy Cloud Ancient City occupies an area of several li. As for the Rising Sun City, it is a city within a city, occupying an area of several li. The great elder explained, "Now, we have already entered the Rising Sun City. My teacher is also in the Rising Sun City." Ting Qingshan exclaimed inwardly in admiration. The Rising Sun Trading Company's conduct already had the demeanor of the great sects of the 9 prefectures. The great sects of the 9 prefectures occupied a county city, and then built a city within a city. "Great Elder, we have arrived." A voice came from outside. "Let's disembark." The great elder smiled and led Ting Qingshan and the whole Gale Eagle down the carriage. Beautiful maids could be seen everywhere in the Rising Sun City. Occasionally, a group of patrolling soldiers could be seen. "Brother Ting, do you know how many soldiers there are in the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City?" the great elder asked with a smile. 100,000? Ting Qingshan guessed. 200,000. The great elder smiled. It was obvious that he was proud of the trading company. 200,000 soldiers? That's even more than the great clans. Ting Qingshan sighed with emotion. The population of the Dreamy Cloud Ancient City is nearly 1 million. Other than the 200,000 soldiers, the rest of the population are the descendants of the Mu clan. The great elder continued. "What? The Mu clan?" Ting Qingshan froze. Almost everyone in a city was from the same clan? Was that possible? The Rising Sun Trading Company. Ting Qingshan stared at the great elder in surprise and said, "Brother Mu, I know a few people in the Rising Sun Trading Company. All of them have the surname Mu. Could it be?" It seems that Brother Ting knows very little about the Rising Sun Trading Company. This is not a secret. In the Rising Sun Trading Company, almost all the stewards are from the Mu clan, and the elders are definitely from the Mu clan. The Rising Sun Trading Company is also the trading company of the Mu clan. The great elder smiled and said, "I thought Brother Ting knew about it." This was actually not a secret. All the great clans knew about it. "Amazing!" Ting Qingshan exclaimed. Other than the army, 99% of the population in the city are from the Mu clan? Ting Qingshan was even more astonished. His hometown, Tingjia Village, only had over 2,000 people. However, the Mu clan had nearly 800,000 people. If the people scattered all over the world were added, the population would probably exceed 1 million. This is not strange. The Mu clan was a great clan 3,000 years ago. As the clan passed down from generation to generation, the population increased. Over 3,000 years. How many people are there now? The great elder was extremely proud. The main branch of the Mu clan has 8 branches, and the side branches have 79 branches. Under the side branches there are also many branches. When Ting Qingshan heard this, he exclaimed inwardly. This was such a prosperous clan. If only his Ting clan could be so prosperous, it would be enough. For example, The bloodline of Yu the Great and the bloodline of Duanmu deity can only flourish for a short period of time. The bloodline of the Mu clan is the most suitable for the clan to develop. Ting Qingshan also had some ideas about the future development of Tingjia village. The two chatted as they walked. "Brother Ting, my teacher's residence is in front. Wait here for a while. I will go inform him," the great elder said with a smile. "This is the residence of the dreamy cloud martial immortal?" Looking at the ordinary-looking palace before him, Ting Qingshan's heart tightened. Chapter 378. The palace that the dreamy cloud martial immortal resided in occupied a large area. The main palace was divided into the front palace, the main palace, and the rear palace. It was a structure of 3 halls and 2 gardens. Every palace was made of grayish-white stone bricks and light brown tiles. The roofs of the palaces were all pointed. The dreamy cloud martial immortal is one of the 2 martial immortals of Duanmu continent. Ting Qingshan looked at the palace door and thought to himself, "When I reach the emptiness realm and return to the land of the 9 prefectures, I will need to deal with experts like them." Ting Qingshan knew that both the land of the 9 prefectures and Duanmu continent, emptiness realm, martial immortal, experts were the ones who truly determined the fate of the continent. There were only 2 emptiness realm experts in Duanmu continent. Therefore, the status of innate experts was very high. In the land of the 9 prefectures, the number of emptiness realm experts in one prefecture was equal to that of Duanmu continent. Some prefectures, such as Yuzhou of Emperor Yu's Hall and Yongzhou of the Ying family, might have more emptiness realm experts than Duanmu continent. In the land of the 9 prefectures, there were many emptiness realm experts, and all of them stood at the peak. When I finish helping the dreamy cloud martial immortal and obtain the 6 stone inscriptions, I will probably reach the emptiness realm. Ting Qingshan thought to himself, even if the 6 stone inscriptions don't help me reach the emptiness realm, it should not be much different. The difference should not be too big. Ting Qingshan and the whole Gale Eagle, 1 man and 1 eagle, stood outside the palace door. The elite soldiers who frequently patrolled the area also looked at the whole Gale Eagle, which was taller than a human, in astonishment. After a while, "Brother Ting, come, follow me." Great Elder Mu Wang smiled and walked out of the palace door. "Little Gray, let's go." Ting Qingshan patted the whole Gale Eagle's feathers and the 2 entered the palace door. "Brother Mu, where is the palace of the dreamy cloud martial immortal?" Ting Qingshan asked. "Just ahead." Great Elder Mu Wang laughed. "My teacher has a very good temper. However, don't act arrogant in front of him. My teacher hates that kind of person the most. If my teacher hates someone, it's very likely that he'll kill them. I'm not that arrogant." Ting Qingshan also laughed. Walking along the corridors of the main hall, Zhang Xian circled around the main hall and arrived at a spacious palace garden at the back. Pieces of bluestone were laid out neatly in the palace garden. On one of the bluestone floors, a carpet was laid out and a table was set up. An old man wearing a snow-white fur coat and a felt hat was sitting cross-legged on the carpet. There was a pot of wine and 2 wine cups on the table in front of him. Beside the long table was a giant saber. The saber was sheathed in a scabbard. There were some strange engravings on the scabbard, and there was a wolf head pattern on the hilt. "Teacher." Mu Wang bowed respectfully. "Ting Qingshan greets Senior," Ting Qingshan said respectfully. "Oh, the young man named Ting Qingshan is here?" It was a very friendly voice. The silver-haired, white-bearded old man looked at Ting Qingshan with a smile and then glanced at the whole Gale Eagle beside Ting Qingshan. His smile became even wider and he instructed, "Yes, Mu Wang. You can go back first. I want to have a good chat with this young man." "Yes, teacher." Mu Wang left respectfully. Ting Qingshan then took a closer look at the dreamy cloud martial immortal. The dreamy cloud martial immortal looked like an amiable old man. He was very similar to his grandfather, Ting Qingshan. Both of them had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. However, when he smiled, he seemed very amiable. When Ting Qingshan first saw the dreamy cloud martial immortal, he couldn't feel any difference between the dreamy cloud martial immortal and an ordinary person. Sit. The dreamy cloud martial immortal pointed at the opposite side. Yes. Ting Qingshan stepped forward and sat cross-legged. Cultivators often sat cross-legged during cultivation. They were used to not using a chair. Ting Qingshan, if you don't mind, I can call you Qingshan, the dreamy cloud martial immortal said with a smile. Ting Qingshan responded with a smile. Qingshan, this old man invited you here today because I have something to ask of you. The dreamy cloud martial immortal looked at the whole gale eagle and praised. As far as I know, you should have another flying demonic beast that can spit fire. I didn't expect you to bring this one here today. Awesome, awesome. This old man doesn't even have a flying demonic beast. I was just lucky. Ting Qingshan laughed and said. Yes, judging from your eyes, you should still be very young. You are not even 60 years old yet, right? The dreamy cloud martial immortal said. Ting Qingshan was shocked. Innate experts were all experts with great spirit. As for emptiness realm experts, they comprehended the Tao of heaven. The eyes of a child and the eyes of an old man were completely different. Although it was not very accurate to judge one's age from the eyes, the judgment of emptiness realm experts was not wrong. This dreamy cloud martial immortal is really powerful. In my previous life, I was almost 30 years old when I died. In this life, I am 20 years old. He said that I am not even 60 years old. Ting Qingshan exclaimed. Yes, you are not even 60 years old. Ting Qingshan nodded. The dreamy cloud martial immortal nodded and exclaimed, Mu Wang is the most outstanding disciple of the Mu clan in the past 200 years. Now, he is only a step away from stepping into the emptiness realm and becoming a martial immortal. However, he is already over 130 years old, while you are not even half his age. Yet, your achievements are higher than his. Amazing, amazing. Ting Qingshan was stunned. Stepping into the emptiness realm and becoming a martial immortal? It seemed that there was an emptiness realm in the Duanmu continent. Come, Qingshan. Let's spar. With this, the dreamy cloud martial immortal stood up. Spar? Ting Qingshan was shocked and hastily said, Senior, you want to spar with me? In Ting Qingshan's opinion, he had not even reached the emptiness realm. Sparring with the dreamy cloud martial immortal would only result in being trampled. I'm letting you try. What are you worried about? Are you worried that I will take the opportunity to kill you? The dreamy cloud martial immortal frowned and said unhappily. Immediately, Ting Qingshan felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him. Ting Qingshan laughed and untied the spear holster on his back. At the same time, he said, Since Senior is willing to teach me, this Junior, personally, I am more than happy to do so. Good, this is more like it. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed heartily. Chi-Chi, Ting Qingshan spun the two parts of the spear into one and threw the spear holster beside the table. Immediately, he tapped the ground with his feet and his body turned into a phantom. In an instant, he retreated 10 zhang and stood still with the spear in his hand. He looked at the dreamy cloud martial immortal with a smile and said, This Junior's abilities are all in this spear. Senior, please teach me. Ting Qingshan felt a sense of pride. After so many years, he had never fought with an emptiness realm expert. When he was at the God of Heaven mountain, he had seen the God of Heaven. Just the look in the God of Heaven's eyes was enough to affect him. When he was at the God of Heaven mountain, he had only fought with the first godly general Boralimu, the disciple of the God of Heaven. Emptiness realm experts were regarded as legends. Regardless of whether it was the land of the 9 prefectures or Duanmu continent, they were existences at the peak. Today, I want to see how powerful an emptiness realm expert is. Ting Qingshan's mental state rose to its peak. Haha, not bad. The dreamy cloud martial immortal smiled and stood with his hands clasped. He looked at Ting Qingshan and said, "Make your move. Use your most powerful move." Phew! Ting Qingshan narrowed his eyes. He could clearly feel that the dreamy cloud martial immortal, who was an amiable senior and an ordinary-looking elder, had instantly transformed into a fierce battle saber. The dreamy cloud martial immortal's entire body emitted a faint aura of saber. Even the surroundings of the dreamy cloud martial immortal seemed to be flickering with saber light. This wasn't a hallucination. It was a fact. "Senior, be careful." Ting Qingshan's eyes became focused, as if they had condensed into a needle. Phew, phew, Ting Qingshan's figure was like a loach in the water. He moved forward with a flicker, moving in a strange route. In the blink of an eye, he had dashed from a distance of 10 zhang to a distance of 2 zhang in front of the dreamy cloud martial immortal. Simultaneously, Ting Qingshan's entire body was enveloped by a layer of aqua-blue battle armor. The reincarnation spear in his hand was also flowing with aqua-blue supreme force. The clothes on Ting Qingshan's right arm bulged, and the reincarnation spear transformed into a huge snake sticking out its tongue. It also looked like a flood dragon that had just dashed out of a cave. The dragon head dashed out. The reincarnation spear instantly tore through the air. As Ting Qingshan exerted his strength at the last moment, the body of the reincarnation spear instantly became like a rotating python or a sharp awl that could drill the heavens and the earth. With an ear-piercing and unpleasant sound, the reincarnation spear, which was made of 10,000 years cold steel, pierced towards the dreamy cloud martial immortal. The combination of the body and the supreme force, an enormous force of 1,600,000 jin exploded. The poison dragon drill of the 5 elemental spear. The dreamy cloud martial immortal's expression turned solemn. He quickly waved his right hand like a blade. Clang! On the surface of the blade, a huge blade shadow appeared out of thin air. The reincarnation spear was struck at an even faster speed. Ting Qingshan only felt a vigorous and terrifying force coming from the spear. It was like a flood bursting through a dam. In front of this force, the strength that Ting Qingshan was so proud of seemed like a joke. Ting Qingshan was directly sent flying, and a deep groove appeared on the bluestone floor. The bluestone fragments flew in all directions, leaving many holes on the palace walls. Some of the larger fragments even caused the palace walls to collapse, and the rumbling sounds continued. "Quick, quick, over here!" A large number of footsteps rushed over rapidly. "All of you, step back!" The dreamy cloud martial immortal frowned and shouted coldly. "All of you, step back! Step back! Step back!" The echoes reverberated continuously. Immediately, many green figures leaped out from the palace where the dreamy cloud martial immortal was at. They immediately ordered the meddlesome elite guards to step back. Subsequently, these green figures returned to the palace one by one. They didn't dare to disturb the dreamy cloud martial immortal. In the palace garden, only the dreamy cloud martial immortal and Ting Qingshan were left. "Phew, he's really powerful." Ting Qingshan stood up. The surface of his body trembled with the aqua-blue supreme force as he leaped out of the deep pit. An emptiness realm expert is indeed an emptiness realm expert. He didn't even need to use a weapon to deal with me. With just a knife hand, the terrifying force sent me flying. In front of him, I didn't even have the chance to resist. Ting Qingshan could feel the shocking difference between them. Moreover, I used the toxic dragon drill first, and he defended later. Regardless of speed or power, he far surpassed me. Ting Qingshan was convinced. Ting Qingshan withdrew the supreme force on the surface of his body and cupped his hands, saying, "Senior, I lost. Qingshan, you've really deceived Mu Wang." The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and strode over. Mu Wang thought that you were a Golden Dan innate expert. At that time, I thought that Mu Wang's comprehension of Tao was extremely high and that he was only one step away from reaching the emptiness realm. The person who could defeat him should be an emptiness realm expert. Today I see that it's true. Qingshan, you must have just reached the emptiness realm. I didn't expect that Duanmu continent would have a third martial immortal. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed. Chapter 379. War God? Emptiness Realm? Confused, Ting Qingshan looked at the dreamy cloud martial immortal in confusion. Although he didn't know much about the emptiness realm, Ting Qingshan knew one thing. The sign of the emptiness realm was to communicate with the heavens and the earth and have boundless true origin. Currently, he did not communicate with the heavens and the earth, and his internal supreme force was not limitless. Senior, I have not reached the emptiness realm. How did you? Ting Qingshan stared at the dreamy cloud martial immortal in confusion. The dreamy cloud martial immortal froze for a moment before he laughed out loud. Qingshan, reaching the emptiness realm is a good thing. Why are you hiding it? What, you think I can't tell? The power of your spear is definitely not something that a Golden Dan innate expert can display. The power of the spear of an expert who has just attained the emptiness realm is not much stronger than yours, the dreamy cloud martial immortal said. As he spoke, the dreamy cloud martial immortal's expression changed. He scrutinized Ting Qingshan and saw that Ting Qingshan's expression did not seem to be fake. The dreamy cloud martial immortal asked in surprise, "Why? Are you really not an emptiness realm expert?" Senior, I know that when one reaches the emptiness realm, one can communicate with the heavens and the earth, and one's true origin is endless. Ting Qingshan shook his head and said, "However, I have not reached the emptiness realm." The dreamy cloud martial immortal scrutinized Ting Qingshan and said, "Qingshan, that spear strike of yours should have comprehended the water Tao. Aside from being slightly rough, its power is very close to that of an emptiness realm expert." Ting Qingshan began to understand. The explosive force of a Golden Dan innate expert was around 800,000 jin. As for himself, it was 1.6 million jin, double that. They were not on the same level at all. Ting Qingshan also knew that there were differences between emptiness realm experts. The Tao of heaven was vast. Only those who had achieved initial comprehension of the Tao of heaven could step into the emptiness realm. Only when one fully comprehended the emptiness realm culmination would they be able to achieve emptiness realm culmination. There was a huge difference between the initial emptiness realm and the culmination of the emptiness realm. Since the dreamy cloud martial immortal was unable to fly, it was obvious that he had not reached the level of emptiness realm culmination. Initial emptiness realm is the lowest level of the emptiness realm. According to what the dreamy cloud martial immortal said, the explosive force of a novice emptiness realm expert is almost the same as mine. Thus, it is not strange that the explosive force of a Golden Dan innate expert is twice as strong. I have yet to enter the emptiness realm, but my strength is already this strong. If I step into the emptiness realm, I'm afraid that I will be even more powerful than the experts who have just entered the emptiness realm. Ting Qingshan felt a trace of joy in his heart. One step higher, one would always be one level higher. The cultivation of the internal martial art could strengthen one's body. As the first emptiness realm expert in the history of the internal martial arts, Ting Qingshan's strength was higher than that of an ordinary emptiness realm expert. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. The dreamy cloud martial immortal smiled and said, "Let's sit down and talk business." Ting Qingshan and the dreamy cloud martial immortal sat across from each other. It doesn't matter if you are an emptiness realm expert or not. In the entire Duanmu continent, besides that person from the Tianfeng clan and me, no one is your match. The dreamy cloud martial immortal was very sure. Besides the emptiness realm godly beasts, the other demonic beasts in the dreamy cloud swampland are no match for you. This time I asked Qingshan to help me look for the spirit herbs. For Qingshan there won't be any danger. The dreamy cloud martial immortal said with a smile. Senior, did you say that there is an emptiness realm godly beast? Ting Qingshan was slightly surprised. There is an emptiness realm godly beast in the dreamy cloud swampland? Of course there is. The dreamy cloud martial immortal sighed and said, in the past, the dark elegant horse, the godly beast of Duanmu deity, who appeared out of nowhere and became invincible with his thunder blade, is an emptiness realm godly beast. Although it doesn't have wings, the dark elegant horse can still fly in the sky. Obviously, it is a godly beast that has reached emptiness realm culmination. Ever since Duanmu deity passed away, the dark elegant horse lost its master and has been living in the 3,000-li dreamy cloud swampland. I have entered the dreamy cloud swampland over 100 times and have seen the dark elegant horse a few times. The dreamy cloud martial immortal's eyes glinted with a special light. The dark elegant horse. It was the mount of the thunder blade deity, Duanmu. Duanmu Yu was an omnipotent expert who was on the same level as Emperor Yu. It wasn't strange for other emptiness realm experts to dream of taming his mount. The dark elegant horse. The dreamy cloud martial immortal sighed and said, this godly beast is very proud and aloof. Besides Duanmu deity, no one has been able to tame it. It can be said that the dark elegant horse is the king of the dreamy cloud swampland. The dreamy cloud martial immortal sighed. When Ting Qingshan heard this, he yearned for the dark elegant horse. Of course, Ting Qingshan just wanted to look at it. Ting Qingshan didn't dare to be arrogant and think that he could tame a godly beast that had reached emptiness realm culmination. During the battle at the Great Yen Mountain in Yangzhou, the demonic dragon Violet Rain appeared. It could be said to be a catastrophe. Many innate experts of the various sects were killed, and the Silver Dragon army of Qing Hu Island instantly lost over 10,000 men. Although Ting Qingshan didn't see it, when he was with Li Jun, he heard the news from Li Jun. As the goddess of the god of Heaven Mountain, it wasn't strange for Li Jun to know this news. Senior, you asked me to help you find the medicine. What kind of medicine are you looking for? Where is the medicine? The dreamy cloud swampland is 3,000 li long. Do you want me to look around like a blind man? Ting Qingshan knew very well that it would take several hours to travel 3,000 li under the harsh environment of the great swampland. This wasn't traveling, but searching for the medicine. He had to search carefully. Of course, the speed was slow. It would take at least 10 days to half a month to travel 3,000 li slowly. The most important thing was, the dreamy cloud swampland was 3,000 li long and 1,000 li wide. Even if he walked back and forth 1,000 times, he still wouldn't be able to cover the entire dreamy cloud swampland. Haha, don't worry. I won't let you run around like a blind man. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, I think you know that the 3 perilous places of the Duanmu continent are extremely dangerous and have endless disasters. However, the heavens are fair. There are also 3 great spiritual treasures in the 3 perilous places. The dreamy cloud swampland has the dreamy cloud white fruit, the blazing flame red lotus in the blazing flame ridge, and the Tianfeng Valley has the Tianfeng pearl. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, this time, I want you to find the dreamy cloud white fruit. Ting Qingshan froze. Dreamy cloud white fruit? Blazing flame red lotus? Tianfeng water pearl? Ting Qingshan had never heard of these 3 great spiritual treasures. Senior, can you tell me about these 3 great spiritual treasures? I really don't know. Ting Qingshan said shamelessly. He knew too little about the Duanmu continent. The dreamy cloud martial immortal was surprised and said, your teacher is really. He didn't even tell you these. The three great spiritual treasures each have their own miraculous effects. Although there are many spiritual treasures of heaven and earth in the three perilous places, these three are the best. Among them, the Tianfeng pearl is a water droplet that was nurtured in the extremely cold Tianfeng Valley. This water droplet is green in color, but it doesn't freeze in the cold Tianfeng Valley. Once consumed, it can open up all the meridians in the body and give the body a strength of 100,000 jin. It can be said that once consumed, the body will transform into a perfect body. The dreamy cloud martial immortal exclaimed. Ting Qingshan was stunned. A strength of 100,000 jin? Open up all the meridians? This is too frightening, right? The blazing flame red lotus is even more special. The seeds of the blazing flame red lotus make all the great clans envious. As long as one ate one lotus seed, one's divinity would rapidly increase. Once an inner strength expert at the peak of the post-liminary realm eats one lotus seed, he or she will most likely reach the innate realm. The dreamy cloud martial immortal continued. In the thousands of years of history of Duanmu continent, 9 red lotuses have been discovered. Among the 9 red lotuses, there are 3-leaf red lotuses, 4-leaf red lotuses, 5-leaf red lotuses, and the highest red lotus is a 7-leaf red lotus. The 9 red lotuses have a total of 42 lotus seed. In the historical records, only one expert who consumed one lotus seed didn't reach the innate realm. The other 41 reached the innate realm. Ting Qingshan was dumbfounded. The blazing flame red lotus that can reach the innate realm? 41 out of 42 people succeeded? The probability was too high. Of course, in the thousands of years of history, there were only 41 more innate experts. On average, there was less than one innate expert every 100 years. Both the blazing flame red lotus and the Tianfeng pearl had amazing effect. The heavens are indeed fair. There are many natural disasters in Duanmu continent, but there are still such heaven-defying spiritual treasures. Ting Qingshan was amazed. In the land of the 9 prefectures, Ting Qingshan didn't find any spiritual treasures that could compare with the blazing flame red lotus and the Tianfeng pearl. Of course, the grass of immortality could. However, the grass of immortality was related to the undying phoenix, so it couldn't be counted in the land of the 9 prefectures. The third item is the dreamy cloud white fruit. The dreamy cloud martial immortal continued. The fruit of the dreamy cloud white fruit looks like an infant. It has the miraculous effect of bringing the dead back to life. Hearing the appearance of an infant, Ting Qingshan couldn't help but think of the ginseng fruit in the fairy tales of his previous life. Bringing the dead back to life? Senior, could it be that the dead can be revived? Ting Qingshan said in surprise. Haha, the dreamy cloud white fruit is extremely miraculous. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, Qingshan, you should know that when a person's vital parts are severely injured and his vitality is cut off, his spirit will dissipate and the person will die. What about the dreamy cloud white fruit? Even if you are severely injured, such as someone piercing a hole in your chest with a sword and shattering your heart and lungs, you will definitely die when your vitality is cut off. However, as long as your spirit hasn't dissipated, you should immediately consume the dreamy cloud white fruit. Even if your heart and lungs are shattered, they will grow back. Even if there is a hole in your chest, it will heal. Even if you are cut in half with a sword and half of your body is cut off, you will grow back the other half after consuming the dreamy cloud white fruit. Ting Qingshan was dumbfounded when he heard this. Bringing the dead back to life? It was indeed not a lie. If I had the dreamy cloud white fruit. Ting Qingshan's heart ached. If Qing had the dreamy cloud white fruit when she died, wouldn't she have survived? Unfortunately, Qing had been dead for many years. Of course, if the person is dead and his spirit has dissipated, it would be useless to consume it. The dreamy cloud martial immortal shook his head and said, Yunji, the most outstanding disciple of the younger generation of the Mu clan, reached the innate realm at the age of 29. When he was 19, his arms were cut off. I didn't expect him to be able to withstand the pressure and reach the innate realm. Without arms, his strength will be greatly affected. Therefore, I intend to find the dreamy cloud white fruit for him so that he can regrow his arms. An idea flashed in Ting Qingshan's mind, and his heart trembled. My father's legs are broken. His life must be inconvenient and he must have suffered a lot. If I bring a dreamy cloud white fruit back to the land of the 9 prefectures. The blood in Ting Qingshan's body suddenly boiled. Of the 3 great spiritual treasures, I really want to consume a drop of the Tianfeng water bead. Waha, I have the strength of 100,000 jin. I don't want to write anymore. I want to be a Superman. Haha, yes, I can also ask for monthly votes and recommendation vote. There seems to be a problem with the voting for recommendation vote. Sometimes it makes me unhappy that I can't vote. Chapter 380. His father, Ting Qingshan, was crippled. Ting Qingshan had always been heartbroken. Ever since he grew up in Tingjia village, he swore that he would let his parents and clansmen live a good life. However, in the end, his father, Ting Yongfan, was crippled, and his uncle died tragically. Ting Qingshan knew Gu Xiu, the young island lord of Qinghu Island, went to capture his father and the others. He even singled out his father because of Ting Qingshan. Remorse and guilt. Now that he knew the miraculous effects of the dreamy cloud white fruit, Ting Qingshan's heart warmed up. He had always longed for his father to stand up again. Qingshan, help me. Go to the dreamy cloud swampland and find the dreamy cloud white fruit. The dreamy cloud martial immortal continued. Haha, I know you want the stone inscriptions left by the godly axe deity, you the great. The Mu clan has 6 of them. I will lend them to you for a few years. What do you think? Senior. Ting Qingshan thought for a while and said sincerely, Qingshan has a request. It might be a bit excessive, but Qingshan still wants Senior to help. Oh, say it. As long as I can help, I will definitely help. The dreamy cloud martial immortal said heroically. It's like this. Ting Qingshan took a deep breath and said, when I was young, I caused trouble and provoked an enemy. In the end, my father's legs were crippled, and he could no longer stand up. I always felt sorry for my father. Now that I know the miraculous effects of the dreamy cloud white fruit, I know that Senior also wants the dreamy cloud white fruit. However, I want to ask Senior, is there a way to satisfy both sides? I really want my father to be able to stand up again. His father, that forthright man from the countryside who cared about him. Although his father, Ting Yongfan, was not like some heroes like Zhuge Yuanhong, he was still his father, even if he was a blacksmith from the countryside. Qingshan, how old is your father? The dreamy cloud martial immortal frowned and asked. In the dreamy cloud martial immortal's opinion, Ting Qingshan was not young, and Ting Qingshan's father should be even older. An old man wanted to waste the dreamy cloud white fruit? My father can live for at least another 100 years. Ting Qingshan's gaze was sharp. The dreamy cloud martial immortal looked at Ting Qingshan and fell silent. He knew what Ting Qingshan meant, haha. The dreamy cloud martial immortal suddenly laughed and said, Qingshan, your filial piety is commendable. Haha, your father must be very happy to have a son like you. As for what you said, it's not impossible for your father to stand up again. Although the dreamy cloud white fruit usually only bears 1 fruit at a time. Ting Qingshan's eyes lit up. Senior, do you have a way? Yes. The dreamy cloud martial immortal nodded and said, the effects of the dreamy cloud white fruit are miraculous. Even if half of one's body is chopped off, after eating the dreamy cloud white fruit, the other half of one's body will quickly grow back. In other words, one didn't need to eat the entire dreamy cloud white fruit to heal normal injuries. I only need a part of it. It can be done like this. Ting Qingshan was delighted. Senior, how long can the dreamy cloud white fruit be stored? What Ting Qingshan was most worried about was that the white fruit would rot due to the long journey. That would be terrible. Don't worry. As long as the dreamy cloud white fruit is placed in a sealed jade box, it won't be a problem. It won't be a problem even if it is stored for 10 or 100 years. The dreamy cloud martial immortal was very confident. Of course, it must be stored in a jade box. Also, the dreamy cloud white fruit must be cut with a jade knife. Using an ordinary knife or sword will damage the white fruit and cause it to rot. Ting Qingshan kept this in mind. Originally, I wanted to obtain one dreamy cloud white fruit and cure Yunji. Then, I wanted to leave a part of it for the clan. Just in case. Since Qingshan said so, how about this? When the time comes, we will cut the white fruit into pieces and let Yunji consume it. When Yunji's arms grow back, we will stop consuming it. The rest will belong to you, Qingshan. The dreamy cloud martial immortal said. Ting Qingshan hesitated for a while, but he still nodded and agreed. Actually, Ting Qingshan knew that if Mu Yunji consumed the white fruit first, who knew how much would be left? However, Ting Qingshan had no other choice. After all, the person in front of him was the dreamy cloud martial immortal. All right, it's settled then. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, Qingshan, you probably know very little about the dreamy cloud swampland. Ting Qingshan nodded and said, you can say that I know nothing about it. Haha, you don't even know about the dreamy cloud white fruit, but I can guess it. Little fellow, it seems that you have devoted yourself to cultivation in the past. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and took out a thread-bound ancient book from his bosom. He handed it to Ting Qingshan and said, I have prepared everything. This is some information about the dreamy cloud swampland. There is a rough map of the dreamy cloud swampland, as well as some demonic beasts, wild animals, poisonous insects, herbs, and spirit fruits. Ting Qingshan took the book and flipped through it. He saw many pictures of wild animals, herbs, and other things. The descriptions were quite detailed. The dreamy cloud white fruit is also described in the book, the dreamy cloud martial immortal said hastily. I see it. Ting Qingshan had already flipped to this page. There was a simple illustration on the side of the book. There was a small, short fruit tree and a solitary fruit that looked like a baby. Beside the illustration, there was a very detailed description. Oh, the size of a fist? It's only ripe when the skin turns white? Ting Qingshan looked at it and had some understanding in his heart. Senior. Ting Qingshan looked at the dreamy cloud martial immortal and said, the dreamy cloud swampland is vast and boundless. Am I supposed to search for the dreamy cloud white fruit like searching for a needle in a haystack? Of course not. The dreamy cloud martial immortal smiled and said, the dreamy cloud white fruit is one of the 3 great spiritual treasures of Duanmu continent. It must grow in places with dense spiritual qi. There were strange beasts guarding every place where there were treasures. It was precisely because of the dense spiritual energy that there would be demonic beasts nearby. You only need to find a place with demonic beasts and see if there are any dreamy cloud white fruits there. If there aren't even demonic beasts, then it's impossible for the dreamy cloud white fruit to be there, the dreamy cloud martial immortal said with certainty. Ting Qingshan laughed involuntarily. This method is simple. No matter how big the dreamy cloud swampland was, it was impossible for the number of demonic beasts to be too exaggerated. Since the dreamy cloud martial immortal could not fly, it would be troublesome to search for him. However, Ting Qingshan was on the back of the whole Gale Eagle and could look down from the sky. Thus, it was much faster for him to search for the dreamy cloud martial immortal. However, you have to be careful. This dreamy cloud white fruit can grow in the depths of the lake, in the grass, or among the rocks. In short, it can grow anywhere. Sometimes, you have to pay attention to a lake. Perhaps there are demonic beasts in the depths of the lake, and the dreamy cloud white fruit is there, the dreamy cloud martial immortal reminded. When Ting Qingshan heard this, he understood the difficulty of the search. One more thing, the dreamy cloud white fruit is a rare treasure of the world. The dreamy cloud white fruit didn't always grow in the dreamy cloud swampland. Perhaps it doesn't exist now. The dreamy cloud martial immortal laughed and said, Qingshan, do your best to search. How about this? Let's set a time limit of 3 months. If you still can't find the dreamy cloud white fruit in 3 months, you can give up. Ting Qingshan frowned. The dreamy cloud martial immortal's words were very reasonable. If the dreamy cloud white fruit didn't exist in the dreamy cloud swampland, it would be a waste of time to search. Alright, 3 months. Ting Qingshan made up his mind. No matter what, he had to search seriously. Qingshan, take a rest today and set off tomorrow morning. The dreamy cloud martial immortal stood up and said. Ting Qingshan also stood up and said, Senior, there's no time to lose. I will go to the dreamy cloud swampland now. At noon that day, Ting Qingshan stood on the back of the whole gale eagle and flew out of the dreamy cloud ancient city, entering the vast dreamy cloud swampland. The dreamy cloud swampland stretched for 3,000 li. Lakes and swamps were the majority. Occasionally there were some hills. The dreamy cloud swampland was very strange. Steam often rose from the surface of the lake. Logically speaking, with the temperature of the Westtang region, the dreamy cloud swampland should be frozen most of the time. However, in reality, except for a few areas, the rest of the dreamy cloud swampland would never be frozen all year round. In some areas, the water temperature was even hot. This was also one of the reasons for the steam. Ever since he stepped into the dreamy cloud swampland, Ting Qingshan discovered the dangers of the dreamy cloud swampland. Because the depth of the lakes varied, those who ventured into the dreamy cloud swampland couldn't row a boat to move forward. As for walking, it was even more dangerous. In many of the swampland areas, one might sink into it with just one step. The most terrifying thing was that some poisonous insects and aquatic beasts would suddenly appear from the bottom of the swampland. When Ting Qingshan was in the dreamy cloud swampland, the whole gale eagle needed to rest because it couldn't fly day and night. Normally, it would only fly for 12 to 14 hours a day. In some areas, Ting Qingshan would also explore on foot. Once, Ting Qingshan stepped on the swampland and advanced. With Ting Qingshan's ability, it was impossible for him to sink into it. However, when Ting Qingshan moved forward, a poisonous snake coiled around his ankle and wanted to drag him into the water. Once, at night, when he was meditating cross-legged, he encountered a large group of poisonous beasts that looked like spiders. They madly spat venom, wanting to poison Ting Qingshan to death and eat Ting Qingshan. Of course, the results of the various situations that Ting Qingshan encountered didn't need to be said. Those poisonous insects and aquatic beasts were indeed tired of living for provoking Ting Qingshan. On the 18th day of entering the dreamy cloud swampland, the whole gale eagle flapped its wings and flew hundreds of zhang high in the sky. Ting Qingshan stood on the back of the whole gale eagle and scanned the area below with his sharp eyes, not missing any unusual situations. Some aquatic birds, poisonous snakes, and piranhas could be seen everywhere. Ting Qingshan recognized all these strange poisonous insects and aquatic beasts. The book that the dreamy cloud martial immortal gave to Ting Qingshan had a very detailed introduction. Ting Qingshan wouldn't care even if he saw ordinary aquatic beasts. Once he discovered a strange monster or demonic beast, Ting Qingshan would definitely go down to investigate. It has been 18 days. Ting Qingshan sighed in his heart. There is no trace of the dreamy cloud white fruit. However, I found over 30 demonic beasts. During these 18 days, Ting Qingshan killed 3 demonic beasts and injured over 30 demonic beasts. He obtained many spiritual herbs and spiritual fruit. Actually, Ting Qingshan was too lazy to kill demonic beasts. Unfortunately, many demonic beasts didn't know Ting Qingshan's ability, and the consequences were tragic. At this moment, Ting Qingshan was carrying a bulging bag on his back. Aside from the empty jade box, there were also spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits that he had obtained along the way. Ting Qingshan looked ahead. Caw caw, tens of thousands of black crow-like birds flew over from the front and instantly covered the sky. In just a moment, this flock of birds had already rushed in front of Ting Qingshan. It was like a vast sea of birds that drowned Ting Qingshan. Strange. Ting Qingshan frowned. The whole Gale Eagle was an innate bird-type demonic beast. When those ordinary birds approached it, they would immediately go around it. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.